So just give me some background about your Magic background or Legacy background, I guess, because I think that's useful. Just a quick paragraph or whatever.
Sure. I am kind of well, I played as a kid, I think, as most people did for
Uh
like
huh.
a year and a half, and then my parents kind of got rid of my cards. So,
Oh, okay.
so I guess after like a 20 something year hiatus, I guess because of COVID, I kind of got back into it,
Uh huh.
like because of Arena, but I
Yep.
got tired of Standard pretty quickly. So I think when we got off lockdowns, I started playing Modern in something like June last year.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and I really enjoyed Modern a lot. And then I realized that, they just kept reprinting stuff. So then I was like, because I was only playing in paper at this point.
Right. Right.
And then I was like, I want something where my hobby doesn't cost a ton of money. So I started buying into older cards. And
Mm-hmm.
then I suddenly realized that, Legacy is basically just modern, but with expensive lands. So
Uh.
uh, I had I had a lot of cards. Basically, every deck I was only missing like five or six cards. And then I was watching a lot of your content and other
Yeah.
content producers on YouTube for Legacy, and it just
Mm-hmm.
seemed like the format was way more diverse and difficult, where your decisions mattered a lot more. Um, I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
is back in Uro days, so in Modern, you just play lands until you play Uro and Field of the
Mm-hmm.
Dead. So didn't feel like there was a ton of agency in Modern compared to Legacy. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's how kind of got into it. I decided to get into it, I should say, because I've played basically like six matches of Legacy total in my life. So
Yeah, that's fair. So you're basically at the very beginning, and I actually think Delver is a great starting point if that's what you decide to do. We can talk about all of that stuff in a second. I'm just curious
yeah,
because think it is like we do live in a very different world where you have the capability to start this old format basically from scratch for very little cost, right?
yeah,
You I think back when I started playing Legacy, it was really IRL. It was like 2005. There was no MTGO, there was no nothing. To be fair, decks were a lot
right,
cheaper, but
right.
it's like I still need to find the cards. The battle. I played basically exclusively Vile Goblins back then because it was the best deck by so much,
Nice.
and 2021 that's not really the case anymore. I think Goblin Lackey has gotten a lot worse over the years, but that's
Right.
okay. Um, so I think the best way to get started is just to look at the deck list you decided to go with. So under the collection, deck editor tab.
So yeah, I did something stupid. I just like already I played it a few games and I didn't like it, so I edited it already a little bit. I basically
Okay.
just played the like Rich Cali Channel Fireball deck
Mm-hmm.
with the four Thoughtseize main,
Mm-hmm.
and then I decided that the Thoughtseize main was not good. Um, it felt really like it was always a very bad top deck, but then I feel like there's so many things I have to force
Mm-hmm.
that I'm like down cards and I'm just trading. It's like, people joke about getting Thoughtseize, so you don't want to mulligan. It's like I'm mulliganing, but also getting Thoughtseize because I played Thoughtseize. So I don't know. This is just my experience. It wasn't very didn't take very long. And then yesterday I was watching Rich's stream and
Mm-hmm.
he changed his Delver list to also not have Thoughtseize main as well. So um
Mm-hmm.
I felt really good in combo, but it just against all the other fair matchups, it felt really bad. So
Yeah.
this is where I saved it, but I think the list I might have it on just open one sec. I basically just oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, I just played this, literally this list.
Yeah, I think that was basically my list that I wasn't sure what we had to attack. It was literally day one
Mm.
post ban. I think he copied my list. I did post a 5-0,
Oh
but
yeah,
uh,
he even has you
the
here. It's
problem
your
with,
list,
I mean,
literally.
yeah, I think the problem with that list was it was very experimental, so it might not have been the
Mm.
best list to copy. And also, I
Right.
uh, I think if you're not new to Legacy, I think playing Thoughtseize main is probably more powerful. But like
Mm.
Stifle creates mana advantages, I guess is the best way to put it. And sometimes you
Hmm.
can just like your opponent just like doesn't respect Stifle, you stifle them, you wasteland them, and then the game's over because they kept a two
Mm.
lander or something like that. But
Right.
yeah, I think going forward, I would not recommend anything close to that list. It was just an experimental list, and it worked out well for
Yeah.
me.
Yep.
Also, there are a lot of things I don't like about his sideboard personally, but we can get to that
Hmm.
in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say the Thoughtseize main thing was mostly I wasn't sure what people were gonna do, and Thoughtseize can't really be that bad versus most decks, and
Right.
uh, and I think that was true day one, and now it's looking like it's a little bit worse. So there is
Right.
that.
I see. I mean,
Um,
honestly, most of the problem is just my misplaying. So I think optimizing the list is
mhm.
not going to help my win percentage by that much.
Yeah, I would say that regardless of what one mana spell you play in that spot, I think the deck is probably still fine. It might
Yep.
not be like perfect for the metagame, but it's probably going to be fine or close to
Yeah.
fine no matter what.
Exactly.
Um, so it's good that you recognize that immediately. I think that's like I think people sometimes obsess too much over an individual card slot, whereas unless if you're playing a deck with like a bunch of tutors, like Birthing Pod or something like that, I'm not
Yeah.
sure how much that's going to affect your win percentage or whatever. It'll obviously affect it, and if you have a perfectly tuned list with every card where you like it, then obviously you're going to win more. But I think it's probably
Right.
not going to affect as much as people would like it to. And
Yeah.
Thoughtseize is a fine card often enough that I
Yep.
don't think that was an issue. Stifle is also interesting in that when Stifle is good, it's really good, but when Stifle's bad, it's like horrible. Um,
Yeah.
and you can see that if you get paired with like an Ancient Tomb, Chalice of the Void deck, like
Yep.
Stifle is literally a blank, and like there, you know what I mean. It's just like there's a bunch of matchups where it doesn't really do anything, and there's
Yeah.
a bunch of matchups where it's hard to use correctly, and then there are some matchups where it's actually unbeatable, like Doomsday. Like Stifle's literally the
Right.
best card possible versus them. It's kind of crazy. You
Right.
don't even stifle their lands. You just sit on them and then
Yep.
wait for them, and it's really hard for them to get around. So
Yeah.
cool that you recognize that. Yeah, Stifle versus Thoughtseize, things are going on. I will say I don't love Snuff Out, and I'm kind of curious how you got to that conclusion.
Um, Nothing really. I just thought I would want to try it because in my mind it's very similar in terms of life cost, but it's one mana cheaper. But obviously,
Yeah,
I don't play Legacy, so
I'm I'm kind of anti Dismember and Snuff Out in Grixis.
Mhm.
I think you can generally do a lot better. You see those cards in
Okay.
Death Shadow because obviously it's great in Death Shadow. Like,
Right.
um, it's basically the perfect card. Like you lose life, you remove their creature, so everything's going great. I
Right.
think personally I like Fatal Push because it costs a single mana, uh, and it doesn't cost you life. And sometimes your life, like in a lot of racing scenarios, you really don't want to pay life. Like if you're playing against like Blue Red Delver with a bunch of Chain Lightnings, it's not
Yeah.
like Dismember is free.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Actually, probably like terrible in that scenario, right?
It's quite bad. I mean, like I think you can draw one and be okay with it, but if you ever draw the second one, you have to alt cast it as well. You're just going to be
Yeah.
down so much life that you're probably going to lose to a flurry of bolts out of nowhere in what might
Yeah.
be an okay game otherwise. Like if you drew like a Dismember and a Fatal Push, you probably would be okay. But if you drew both of those, you're really not okay.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, so basically, I guess what I'm saying in that regard is I think it's fine to have one Dismember, but I wouldn't want a
Yeah.
Dismember and Snuff Out in my deck. And
Gotcha.
I think Dismember is preferable to Snuff Out because of opposing Gurmag Anglers.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't know if you noticed, Snuff Out says non-black on it because it's like a
Yep.
weird old card.
I
Um,
did notice that, yeah.
so yeah, that's it. I just want to scroll down a little bit just to make sure okay, this is just lightning bolts. I was pretty sure they were, but I didn't actually run
Yeah.
a count. Um, so yeah, I think this is reasonable. And like I said, those are just minor nitpicks I have. I think mostly everything is
Yep.
reasonable about the list.
Yep.
Um, do you have any other questions about this list or like what I like? Just ask me anything now. Like this is your time.
Yeah, sure. Like I kind of felt like again, this is like on very, very limited data, but if I kind of felt like I played against in my first league where I was literally just trying to figure out how to click buttons. So I don't
Okay.
think those games are super useful. But my
Right.
first two games I played against Uro decks,
Yeah.
and this deck just felt way weaker than the Arcanist variants
Yep.
before.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt like I couldn't, like I was trading, I thought, fairly effectively for the first 4 or 5 turns, and then as soon as they drew their fourth land, which I couldn't waste land, then
Mm-hmm.
felt like the game was just over immediately. And I couldn't get them dead fast enough, unlike maybe something like a blue red. So I kind of felt like this deck was maybe too middle of the road, not aggressive enough, and then can't grind hard enough. So I'm not sure what your thoughts about the current. Maybe it's a bit too early, but maybe the current metagame and how Grixis would be, or Delver in general.
So obviously it depends on the exact build. Here, I think it's more of a macro archetype issue that the more aggressive your Delver deck is, the bigger a problem Uro is going to be for you. Actually, I would actually say,
Okay.
mostly because if your deck is mostly bolts and Uro gains 3 on the first iteration, that's actually like kind of bad for you in a lot of ways. Because it's
Mm.
trading with a card, gets them a card, then when they escape it, gets them another card and gets them another card, then it's just like kind of an issue. And I think
Yeah.
for that reason, the Uro decks, if they're really like heavy on removal, tend to be really tough matchups for most Delver decks in game one. Is how I would put it, and that's always been the case. I think even in the Arcanist days, that was a big issue.
Right.
Um, and now you don't have Oko as a queen catch-all verse for those cards.
Yeah.
Really, the way you beat those decks, I think, in game one is to do what you said. Try to get them dead and just pretend they don't have Uro. Maybe force of will it or daze it once or twice.
Hmm.
Maybe go after their mana if you see that they're close to escaping
Yep.
Uro. And in a post-board game, I think the way you actually beat those decks, depending on how they're built, is to just not having burn spells in your deck and just try to like keep power blasting their Uros or surgical or Nihil Spellbomb their Uro. And I'm
Mm.
normally not an advocate for something like surgical versus a fair deck, but I think when it comes to Uro, the rules change quite a bit because it's not just a fair threat versus a Delver deck. It's actually an unfair threat because it's
Right.
recurring.
Yep.
So
So you would actually side out the bolts? Is that what you mean?
it depends on the exact version, but I generally would, yeah.
Right.
Um,
Okay. Wow.
because like I side up Bolt more than a lot of Delver players I know because I don't think
Hmm.
Lava Spike is a good card in a lot of matchups. Like if your opponent's
Okay.
basically a creatureless deck, Lightning Bolt is just Lava Spike, and that's not really that great. Like I don't leave in any Lightning Bolts or Storm, and I know a lot of people swear by it. I'm just like I think you can do way better, generally speaking.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
You say it
Because that's
makes
just a
sense,
bad
and
draw, right?
a lot of diehard Legacy players swear by it, and I'm like, I think you all are misassessing what's actually going on here. The games you win versus them are because you like prison them out with your counter spells, not because you bolted them twice to increase your clock.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, I have no heuristics, so it
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
a lot of sense when you say it.
yeah. No, that's just my philosophy. I know other people do different things, so
Right.
if you end up finding a different strategy that works better for you, feel free to use it. That's what I do. It's like how in chess different grandmasters play different ways. I think that's probably what's going on here too.
Yeah.
All right, so that's my opinion on Uro. Was there another specific question you had about this deck list or similar deck list to it, or any issues you foresaw?
Um, yeah, I was just thinking, like, do you think right now, any sort of Delver win rate issues are not meta based, but just skill based? Like, would you say that's a fair statement? Because as a new player, I'm wondering, like, I'm looking for a deck with kind of like a higher skill ceiling that kind of
Mm-hmm.
survives a lot of meta games, which is why I was
Mm-hmm.
drawn to Delver in the first place. Do you think the meta game is just like a little bit too hostile towards it, or is this still just whatever Delver can handle?
I think something like this will most likely be fine, even though Uro is an issue. Um, That's why I think there's probably a little bit of merit to the weird Sultai Uro hybrid Delver decks, even though historically I think Sultai has been a pretty poor color combination for Delver. Um,
Mhm.
but now I think it might be better because Uro and those other cards are kind of broken. So I think to answer the question quickly, overall, some sort of Delver deck will always be decent in the metagame. It's just you have to crack the code, so to speak. It may not be specifically Grixis or Blue Red or even like Jeskai or Rug. But
Mhm.
I think there's so many color combinations you can go through. They're all base blue, and the cantrip shell is just kind of broken, frankly, by this point.
Right.
It's always been broken. I think it's just in recent years people have realized how broken it is, frankly.
Right. I see. Yep.
So I think
Yeah,
it
that's
that
pretty much it.
there are rewards for practicing a lot of these style decks, and eventually you'll learn enough situations and sniff out a lot of weird scenarios where you wouldn't have before, and it'll probably do something. It'll, I think you'll learn a lot, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Mhm.
I think last one question I did have is much more specific to my local metagame. I think there's going to be a lot of like random chalice decks because those are cheaper to build.
Sure.
Um, are there any like deck building considerations I should have going
So,
into some?
um, generally, most of the Delver lists you see, and that's addressed here, have two sideboard answers for Chalice of the Void, and you see that in a pair of braids here.
Yep.
Brazen Borrower is also a pseudo answer because if you unlock one turn of being able to use your spells, that might be good enough. There
Mm-hmm.
are other fringe cards you can play that are also good versus Chalice. Um, like Engineered Explosive kills all of the Chalices for basically 2 mana. There's a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of like fringe cards like that you can play. So depending on what it looks like, you can address it in certain ways. The other thing is versus Chalice decks is I tend to play extremely aggressively versus them once I know they're Chalice deck. Like if they go like Ancient Tomb Chalice and I force it, then I know just I want to push as much damage as possible. I don't want to grind. I just want to try to get them dead, and get lucky.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense.
Like to that end, I'll usually leave them with Ancient Tombs and just try to wasteland any other land as well. Because
Right.
the two life is not free. Like if they have to keep tapping that like 5 times in one game, that's them
Yeah.
starting at 10. That's really not free.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Not against the four bolt deck. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 bolts, fast creatures.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I think that's how you can address it. Just address your play once you know, and you can sideboard a little bit different, have a slightly different sideboard if you want. That might be a
Right.
little bit better for Chalice than normal.
Right. So it sounds like the deck itself is not as weak as perceived. Maybe
I
it's just a
I
matter of
think
playing.
a lot of it is if you don't know you're playing against a Chalice deck in game one, it's easy for them to just like sack you.
Yeah.
Because okay, imagine you're playing an open decklist tournament and you know your opponent's Chalice of the Void, then you get to mulligan appropriately, right? But if
Mm-hmm.
you're just playing a blind league or whatever, you don't know, right? So
Yeah.
that's the difference because there's a lot of games where I would probably just keep like 3 lands, Delver, cantrip, lightning bolt, and that's like a perfectly fine hand. Then my opponent just goes Tomb Chalice, then I'm suddenly dead
Yep.
because I didn't know. I mean,
Yep.
there's obviously a small amount of risk, but I would just never mulligan that hand blind in game one. I think it's just too good versus most of the decks. It's just that versus that particular deck, you were bad. But
Right.
this is not a problem that's unique to just Chalice. Because if you have that hand versus like a Charbelcher opponent, the same thing will happen, or a Dredge opponent.
Right.
So
Right.
it's just more of an issue of there are decks in Legacy that exploit that in game one, and then the post-board games become a lot different because A, you know what you're playing against, and B, you know to mulligan appropriately. So
Yeah.
I
I
don't
guess
think
that's it for the deck perspective. Yeah.
yeah.
Like I said, I think, my as I was sitting there clicking buttons, I realized that 90% of my losses is on me. So uh and some of it I picked out immediately, like one specific play that cost me the game, but the other ones I'm not sure if the overall game plan or strategy is just not correct for Legacy. I kind of felt like obviously walking through a lot of haze and not sure what I'm doing, and then suddenly I'm just finding myself in a corner. So, and when I watch you guys play, that doesn't happen. So, just not exactly sure where I went wrong. So that's why, obviously, getting your coaching would be super helpful.
Yeah, to be fair, most of the people I have on the stream or I play with, we've played like tens of thousands of hours of whatever format. It's not
Yeah,
really fair to beat yourself up in that regard versus us because and like we still do stupid shit. Like I think that's just part of the game, right? You
right.
like
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you watch chess streams. I do occasionally. Sometimes even like Hikaru, GM Hikaru on Twitch, one of the
Mhm.
most famous young grandmasters. Sometimes even he blunders, and he's like probably number 2 or 3 in the world at Blitz chess.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the point is, humans are not machines. You're going to make a mistake at some point. Um,
Yeah.
the more important thing is just to learn from it. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the mistakes that you can see immediately are easier to fix. But then I think for me, I feel like, and I can't verify it. Maybe you'll verify it for me, but I feel like there's a game plan weakness that I have.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm making some like key decisions maybe earlier in the game that trickle down to being backed into a corner.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like the feeling that I get, but I can't obviously pinpoint exactly where it happened. So
Right.
those kind of things, I think I can't get better without coaching because I'll just keep doing it over and over without realizing, right?
Right. And I think this is why it's good to record games and then look at them rather than trying to
Yeah,
do it live. Doing it live has a lot of issues, namely the clock is a real issue. Like especially
right,
if you're new to
right.
MTGO. Um,
Yep,
there are some decks I do not love to stream on MTGO because they are slow and like there's a lot of clicking. Sometimes I'll still do it. Like I guess you saw me play Food Chain once or twice. Um,
yep,
that's not really the most pleasant MTGO play experience, even though I think it is a good deck, and I think it is reasonable to want to play it on an MTGO if you want. Just keep in
right.
mind you'll be clicking like for hours on end, recasting this Miss Hologriffin to like shoot your opponent for 22 damage or something, and it's not that fun.
Yep, yeah,
Same for Heliod Company in Modern. I don't really like playing that deck on MTGO, even though I think it's an extremely good deck. I think it's probably one of the 2 best Modern decks, frankly. I think Jund Death Shadow's the other one.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It's like
Mm-hmm.
probably got a higher win rate on paper than people just stopping at 100 and dying eventually. So
Yeah, there's that. Anyways, enough rambling about that. Let's take a look at some of your games, and we can discuss some of the mulligan decisions, plays, the good stuff that you're here for.
sure, sounds great. I
So click on the
literally just
gear.
forgot how to get
Click on the
the gear.
gear.
Okay.
Yeah. Then click on game history. All right. So guess let's start with the
One, two.
there are multiples of 5, or they should be, right?
Yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
I think this league makes more sense. The
Okay.
second one, because the first league I literally lost by not attacking in some games.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
it happened this league too, but only
Okay.
once.
All right. Yep. So have you used the replay feature yet?
I clicked around on my own a little bit. Yes.
Okay. So just be careful not to fast forward through things because it's easy.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you click that middle button, okay. Yeah, the middle button
Okay.
advances by a little bit. So that's
Yeah.
the best button to use.
Yep.
All right. Um so I assume you had no question about this opening hand, right?
I I mean, I didn't know what I was playing against, obviously, so I felt like I could just ponder into something after he plays. They make the first play.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. And if you're playing against a creature deck, the triple bolt is fantastic, right? Like you just go
Yep.
their first 3 threats and hope to develop a Gurmag Angler or threat after that. So yeah, I agree. All right. So you basically get no information from that. Underground Sea Ponder could be like 5 different decks. So
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks, but Obviously you're not countering that either because I think that's just like borderline maniacal. So
Right. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. I didn't.
They chose to shuffle. So there's a few ways to read that. My
Yep.
inclination is choosing to shuffle when they've kept 7 means they're probably land light. So there are
Hmm.
scenarios where you top deck a wasteland, you just use it immediately. Um,
Right.
Ponder Shuffle indicates weakness to me. Obviously, they could be flooded, and the opposite would be true, but I think it's slightly more likely that they're mana screwed, and
Right.
they were just looking for a land. So let's,
Just because people tend to keep land light hands over land mana flood hands, right?
yeah, I mean, just look at your hand, right? Like, if that
Yes.
Ponder misses on a land, you're probably shuffling too, right?
Exactly, for sure.
All right. So let's just get, yep. Well, you know what you want now.
Exactly. Yep.
You definitely want to land, and probably a daze is good, like
Yeah.
just to bridge. Um, so here it's kind of complicated. Well, actually, I don't think it is. Never mind. I guess you just get volcanic, right? Yeah.
I I didn't honestly think about it, but
I think you should think about it slightly. If you had a second land, you actually should get
yeah.
Underground Sea with the first one because the second one you'll want to fetch Bolt after you've cast this cantrip, essentially.
Mm,
But
makes sense. Yep.
you know, it's minor things. But
Yeah.
right, well, I don't think you're allowed to keep that Ponder. Obviously, it just goes nowhere real fast. Yep, agree with shuffling. Brainstorm's a pretty good pickup. Like, obviously, you want to sit on that one for as long as possible here because
Yeah.
your hand doesn't like lands are good to draw. Like, you really want to pair that with a fetch land. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like firing it off as to emergency in this case, right?
Yeah, there are times where I do fire it. The times where I fire it off are actually when my hand is just like all cantrips. I just want to
Hmm.
see what's going to happen. Then like the effect of firing it off is not that bad because I can always use another cantrip to like shuffle or get rid of shit, you know?
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, I don't think the Bloodstain Mire told me anything either. Maybe okay.
No, it doesn't. All right. So, okay. Can you identify the deck from this?
I know it's not some sort of aggro deck.
Mm-hmm.
And Ponder tells me it's probably some sort of combo.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't know which one. And actually, even like not
Mm.
spoiler alert, even when I sideboarded, I thought it was the other one. So
Okay. Well, this is something that's format knowledge. I could tell you
yeah,
right from this opening that this is Bryant Cook's deck, the Epic Storm, because Taiga Underground Sea Ponder is like, I would say it's over like 99% to be the Epic Storm. Uh,
right.
so it's just, it's Storm combo. Looping the decks together is like kind of unfair, but from a strategic standpoint, your role is pretty much the same. Just like counter their like
Yeah.
bombs and try to kill them. So now you
Yep.
know.
I
And the unfortunate part of this is the bolts are not good unless if they add
yeah.
nauseum to a very low life total.
Oops.
What were you about to say?
Oh no, sorry. I thought we cut out, but I was just gonna say I identified Storm, but I kept thinking it was
Ant.
like Ant. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are key differences versus them. Namely, I think the biggest key difference is that deck has 4 main deck Veil, so it's actually kind of tricky about when you're supposed to use your counters. I think.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah. Keep going.
yeah. And you have to counter this one given your hand.
Yeah, and also future draws would be dead, right, if I don't
Yeah.
counter it. So
Yep. Agree with Fawn. You pitched True Name, which I agree with because True Name's not that good in the matchup anyways. So.
hmm.
All right. So I'm kind of curious what you decide to do here.
I don't remember, but I think I played Delver to get some pressure on board.
I 100% agree with that. I think so many people would brainstorm here. I'm like, what are you even doing? Like, if the longer this game goes on without you having a clock, that means they can just beat all your counter spells by like building critical mass. So yeah,
Yeah.
I 100% agree with this. I think a lot of people would play brainstorm. I think it would be really, really not good to do so
Well,
here.
it just feels like if I have to keep countering their bombs, I'm two for one myself in that process, and eventually I'll lose because I'll be down cards.
Right.
Um,
It's better to counter their stuff when you are like attacking them for damage,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah, exactly. So it's just my dog. He just came back from running around. So
Nice.
yeah, this was a pretty tough decision, and I don't know what I did. And right now, I'm inclined to kind of just let it go.
I think I would also let it go. There's a few reasons. A, I think you really need this brainstorm to fix your hand. And
Yeah,
B, like I kind of want them to invest mana into something. Now the issue is if the only card they're missing is Veil of Summer, then it'll backfire on you. But I don't think
yeah.
you're allowed to force this given your hand. Yeah. Not good. So a quick note there. Some people would
Mm-hmm.
advocate you brainstorm upkeep there. I think your hand's sufficiently bad that you're not allowed to do that. I think
Mm-hmm.
there are times where you're allowed to do it, and it's actually when your hand's like pretty well set up as it is, and all you need to do is close the game out. But I think your hand was so bad here that you're not allowed to do it.
I
Um,
see. So the worse the hand, the more value you need out of the brainstorm. So you
yeah,
need to wait for that
exactly,
wasteland. I mean,
exactly.
sorry, the shuffle. Yeah.
Yep. And I think here I would just brainstorm every time and just probably put back some spells. And it looks like you're doing that, obviously, because your hand doesn't really do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is pretty good. I mean, all things considered, it's not ideal, but it's like relatively good, right?
Right. Right.
So curious what you
I.
do here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I clicked ahead. Yeah.
So you put an angler and the bolt
A
on.
bolt.
So the question is, did you put bolt or angler on top?
I think I wanted to draw the angler, but I wanted to waste them. I think was my logic here.
So there's a lot of ways you could play that. I think what I
Yeah.
actually would be thinking about is it worth drawing a dead card in the form of Gurmag Angler? And I guess you thought it
Mhm.
was. It's sort of close. And
Yeah.
the other issue is you kind of don't get to flip your Delver for a bit, but I guess you were
Yeah.
thinking that you needed the Angler to close the game out fast with one force, right?
That was my thinking, but then the next turn I realized immediately that I forgot about Delver's flipping ability. So
Yeah, so I think what I would have done was put Angler Bolt back, uh,
Mhm.
and use the Bolt to flip Delver and just shuffle it away on upkeep with your fetch land instead of wasting them.
I see. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, what's the difference in terms of the game development if I waste them instead of rather than which like in my mind sets them back a turn versus flipping the Delver, which puts me ahead a turn. I guess the way I'm thinking about it.
Well, there's that, and there's the fact that you get to shuffle both of your essentially not great cards away. I think
I see.
is the tiebreaker for me. I think from a pure damage perspective, it's actually
Yeah.
better to redraw with the angler, but from
Hmm.
not drawing bad cards and trying to do something good, it would actually be slightly better to do the play I described.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Just about improving overall hand quality,
Yeah,
basically.
right. But I guess I wouldn't be surprised if this actually ended up working out for you because they missed a land that one turn.
Yeah.
So
And I felt like Taiga's kind of an awkward land maybe
agreed.
for them.
Underground Sea is the best
So,
land in their deck.
yeah.
The Greenlands only exists because you need to like be able to splash Veil of Summer into your deck essentially. And Abrupt Decay
Yeah.
post board is like pretty common.
Right. Not against Delver though, right? Do they bring that in against Delver?
Sometimes they do. It depends on whether or not they know you have Null Rod. Like Null Rod is like
Okay.
actually unbeatable for them.
Right. So they did nothing.
Yeah.
And now I really regret putting the Gurmag on top, I think.
Yeah, it's
Oh no,
oh, you did put the bolt on top. Okay.
Oh, I did put ball on top. Okay.
Okay.
Well, maybe I'm
Okay.
smarter than I thought.
Wait. Why are we doing this? No reason to bolt right now, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Not sure.
Okay. Yeah, just make a note of it.
Yep. Maybe I was just trying to spend my mana.
But you can do that. Like they might go for an ad nauseum or something and go too low if you don't bolt them, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, I'll just click till you let me.
Yeah.
Tell me to pause for a bit.
We'll wait for like an interesting decision point.
Yep.
Interesting
Like
by your opponent. They've okay. Well, actually, let's stop here for a sec.
Yeah.
Okay. First off, interesting. They fetch Swamp. I'm trying to remember if Catacombs can get another blue source. Let me check real quick.
Well, Underground Sea, right? Should be.
Well, I think their deck only plays one actually.
Oh, okay, I see.
That's why I'm going to check real quick to see what their deck list looks like, because depending on how it looks. Okay, I see. The issue is they have to choose between Swamp and Tropical Island, really. Those are the they could get. They can't get Volcanic, obviously, because it's a Verdant Catacombs. So it's Swamp or Trop. I guess. I don't know. If they didn't do anything that turn, they should just not even fetch, I think, is the weird part of it. That's what I was thinking about there. I guess they were afraid of Stifle, but you still had a mana up for Stifle, so that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I think them fetching right there is really weird.
Yeah.
Now, what I was about to say is I don't think you should redraw this Grimag Angler.
Yeah. I can't remember if I thought about it or I just clicked through my upkeep, which was also a problem.
So the one nice thing about it is that it lets you kill them next turn if literally nothing bad happens to you. Now the issue is I'm not sure that Force, Delver, and 2 bolts will be enough. Like the bolts basically don't do anything, right? So it's basically, is a Force plus a blue card good enough on average versus their 6 cards in a Wishclaw? I'm not sure it is. That's why I would want to fetch the Gurmag away.
Sorry, I think my internet just died, and hopefully.
Did you hear what I said? Or
you said I'm surprised you drew the Gurmag Angler, and then then it cut off.
Okay, I'll just re-explain real quick. I think versus 6 cards and a Wishclaw, Force plus blue card is not going to be good enough on average, which is why I'm inclined to shuffle it away.
Right.
Look for a Daze, or you have Thoughtseize in your list by this point, so like even a Thoughtseize would be better, I think, or a Cantrip would definitely be better. I think there's like so many ways you can improve. I think if you get to your next turn with them at 8, you can always EOT Bolt and then maybe draw another one or something like that. Not that that's that likely, but I think that Angler is just pretty much a dead draw.
Yeah, agreed.
But of course, now that you're here, you're obviously going to play the angler.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be said about that, really.
Oh wow, just you can just watch me delve very slowly.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So yeah, now you're just hoping that your stuff is good enough, which is,
Yeah,
you know,
basically.
maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Like now all of the decisions are locked in. You know.
Yep. So I let them have the ritual.
I think that's fine. I mean, like if they have a veil, they would veil your force. So I mean,
Yeah.
you ideally you would get to them to a spot where they can't like really do anything to your
Yeah.
force and force a critical spell. But I agree with not forcing any of the rituals or that opal, obviously.
Yeah. So now they tap the taiga. Still another ritual.
Right.
So I mean, so they're dead next turn. I'm just like hoping to pick off the one spell.
I think if I were you, this would be the spell. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back and analyze that.
Yeah.
Why did they get Burning Wish? Burning Wish isn't even lethal. Like, so suppose they wish for empty the warrens, which is the most likely card.
Yeah.
That doesn't do enough. And if they get tendrils, that doesn't kill you. That only puts you to 3. Or
Right.
5 actually. So I guess maybe they were just drawing dead.
I mean, I think they were going for Warrens, right? Because maybe they didn't have enough
Yeah,
storm
but
count. So
little do you know, the bolts are actually good in a Warren scenario because what you can do on your turn is claw for another red source and just double bolt and attack.
mm-hmm.
So I think you actually had Warrens beaten, but if they got something like weird that I can't even think of, I think it's just better to force it, you know?
Yeah. Well, if they can't do anything else, they just lose on the spot, right? So
I mean, they could hypothetically have tricked you and have like another ritual plus tendrils, but I think that's so unlikely because I feel like they actually clawed for the wish based on how the game played out.
Right. So if they did trick me and they had the force makes storm count 7, right?
Yep.
Or no, the force is making a storm count 6.
Yep.
And then they would cast ritual 7. They would have to cast something. I don't think that kills me.
Okay. Yeah, they would actually need 2 more rituals in total. So yeah, I think you're pretty safe to forces. So
but I didn't think about the getting tricked part actually. So lucky that I just happened to play around it.
Yeah. Just close this and you have to go back to the other menu.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
For game 2. I think I wrote down how I sideboarded.
You can actually check in game. Just
really?
go to game 2.
Yep. Oh, that would have been
all right.
much easier.
Maximize it. So right click on the battlefield. View sideboard.
Oh.
And this is critical if you play a deck that has if you have a deck that has like wishes or something in it, this is like pretty critical.
Right.
I do not recall how you built your sideboard. So actually,
let me refer to my notepad here.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Oh, maybe I don't have it. Just saved it in the wrong folder. Okay, so I did manage to like correctly identify the deck after the first game.
Oh, okay.
I think after they played Witchclaw, I was I knew what it was, but yeah. So this is what I did for it.
Okay, so I'm gonna comment on a few things. First off, I really hate Lightning Bolt in these matchups. I don't think
Yeah.
it's good. And I like Brazen Borrower better for a bunch of
Hmm.
reasons. A, it's like one of the ways you can like temporarily put a defense grid or a Wish Call Talisman back in their hand. And B, I
Hmm.
don't think the surgical or spell bomb does actual anything. I think it's like actually a
Right.
trap because
Okay.
the card it hypothetically interacts with, there's a few. First off, you can never actually surgical or spellbomb an Echo Vions, so keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And second off,
Yep.
the only time surgical is really good is if you like thought sees like their burning wish, but they play main
Yeah.
deck tendrils now, so it's not even like that's game over anymore. I think
Right.
back when they didn't have any main deck win conditions, that was actually game winning, and now it's like a minor nuisance for them instead. So,
Yeah. I
uh,
mean, I think the spell bomb was definitely a mistake. I just forgot if
mhm.
this version used the graveyard at all. And the surgical, I put a minus here. I think I took it out in game three when I realized it didn't do anything.
I think I would rather have blasts because you can blast an echo, which is fine. And you can also just
Mm.
trade with their cantrips, which I think is a fine use of
Oh, I
cards.
see. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Do
So
you think I should have brought in the upgrade?
yes, I do because of
Okay.
A, defense grid, uh B, if they just run out in like a naked wish call like they did right there, abrading it is really good
Yeah.
actually.
Right. Cool.
Um I would not have any lightning bolts in my deck, like I said.
So all four out. Okay.
Yeah, and after that, the fatal push is clearly bad, and like, um, I'm not the highest on Plague Engineer because I don't think they actually go for empty that often versus you anymore. Back in the
Mhm.
old days when they went for empty a lot, I was much higher on cards like Plague Engineer, but I think it's fine to have if you are scared of
Right.
that.
Yeah, because I thought I would take out the true names because it it is just a clock
Yeah.
and not very fast. So then to
Mhm.
replace it, I just thought, okay, might as well bring in another creature,
Yeah, but
which is engineer.
I do think cutting bolt before anything else is better. So
Okay.
that does create a lot of room for cards like Plague Engineer. So
Okay, makes sense.
So basically, I guess the difference from that, what you wrote down, is I would have all four bolts out and have all of the blasts in, and not have the surgical or spell bomb in.
Yeah, it seems pretty dumb now that I didn't have any blasts in since they play like a base blue deck. So
I mean, it's like against their better hands where they don't have to cantrip, blast looks pretty embarrassing. But I think most of the games they have to set up a little bit at
right.
least. So,
Yeah.
all right. So now you know you can look at your sideboard. Just if you need to remind yourself in game if you are drawing to an out or not, you can always look at that as well.
Okay. Well, this was a very easy decision.
Yep. Uh, well, this is what you signed up for. I think you have to keep it. No, I think
You would keep this?
yeah, I think it's basically close enough, and like Foster's pretty good versus them.
Hmm.
Now the question in my mind is, and I want to see what you did. What do you think you should bottom and why?
Well, like with the additional knowledge you just gave me, I would bottom surgical because it shouldn't even be in the deck. But I don't remember what I did here.
Yeah,
Like I know I need to keep young pyromancer because it's the only
mm-hmm,
pressure that I have. Upbraid is like the only interaction that I have that's not stack based.
mm-hmm,
Like if they play defense grid, I can't fluster it,
yeah,
so I would keep the upbraid. Plague engineer, like I think it's more like I mean without lands, without cantrips, it's kind of hard to imagine me casting it. So
mm-hmm.
maybe I bottom that.
Yeah.
Not
I
sure.
I think it's surgical, a braid, or engineer, and I think
Okay.
with what I told you, I think bottoming surgical is correct.
Yeah. So I bottom upbraid.
Yeah, I think that's fine to do if you think surgical is a real card versus them. Obviously, I think you might
Yeah,
have a different perspective on it now.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah, this keep itself was very questionable for me. Like I wasn't
Uh,
sure if you're allowed to keep hands like this even on six, but
I think on six, I would probably just keep it and just hope. Like, honestly, it doesn't take that much for you to improve. If you just
mm,
draw like a cantrip,
yeah.
and yeah, like this is pretty common for them to do, like carpet. In which case, like the reason carpet is so good, Rocio, it turns off all of your dazes pretty easily, and it's just like it adds so much mana.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, top deck a wasteland after they pick Carpet of Flowers is pretty sad, but yeah.
Well, not necessarily. I think there's that. I actually probably would have just wasted them. Let me explain
Okay.
why.
Yep.
Notice they had to fetch Trop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, actually, sorry. Well, let me retract. The only green sources they have in their deck are all dual lands, but if you waste that, it sort of it makes it hard for them to just cantrip without you playing a blue land of your own, which might buy you a
Mm-hmm.
turn or two. Um,
Mm.
I think it's also fine not to wasteland if you don't want to, because if you think the plague engineer is going to be important, then there's a lot of merit to doing that. But I think
Right.
instinctually, I'm looking for ways to slow the game down to draw out of this scenario we're in. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that there is some proportion of the time we're wasting them is correct. And I probably would have just flipped that coin and tried to get them. But
Right.
it's not like
Yeah.
100%. It's like a probably like a 51-49 scenario, if I had to
Okay.
guess.
Yeah. I mean, like now that I'm sitting here, I think I would have wasted them because I'm just giving them a blue land for nothing, and I'm
Exactly.
not
Yeah,
like doing anything here. So
you've actually done the opposite of wasteland them.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think I was disappointed to draw the wasteland after I saw the carpet, so I just
Yeah.
didn't play it. Yeah, like yeah, just not a very rational play.
No. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it
Just
might be the okay play, but I didn't think about it at all.
I like I said, I think it might be okay, but at least thinking about it is an important part, like you said.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So they chose not to use ponder or not ponder carpet. And the
Yeah.
reason is they're casting a cantrip, so second main they can use it and know what color they want to add, which is like this is pretty common sequencing, and this is good. This is a good sequence by them to do.
Right.
All right, so they chose not to shuffle. Hmm. Oh wow,
Yep.
that wasteland might have been game it. All right, surely now you wasteland them.
um, I don't remember what I did.
I think
I think
preordained
I
burst is correct, though. Obviously,
think I went bottom bottom.
no. You.
Oh,
I think you
I
should keep
drew the
that
stuff.
thought seize actually.
Okay. Oh, okay. I did keep the thoughtseize actually.
Yeah,
And I
I
did
mean,
waste them.
I think this is the juiciest wasteland ever. Uh,
Yeah.
Obviously, if we had wasteland turn one, it would have been slightly better for you, but you know,
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it would have just been game ending, right? In
yep,
hindsight.
it would have unless they have another land here. Although it's like kind of hard for them to have another land right here because they pondered last turn, didn't play a land.
Yeah.
It like I don't know where the land would be coming from.
Maybe they put it second on second from the top in order to play a carpet faster.
Oh, I guess that is reasonable. Yeah, I guess that I suppose that's reasonable. Oh man, this is such a good brainstorm for them.
Yep.
Yeah, brainstorm's broken.
Yeah, at this point I think I kind of felt like I died, but
I mean, you're not dead, but obviously things have not lined up well
right.
after a bunch of things happened. That's pretty good though. So yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with this. Now the question is if they value, what do you do? But we'll get to that in a second.
It looks like they're veiling me. Oh, what is this? Yeah, veil.
So okay, before you do anything,
Yep.
I actually think there's a play here that a lot of people wouldn't consider, which is you just surgical their one of their cantrips first to look at their hand to decide whether or not you want to force this veil.
Ooh, okay.
And I think most people wouldn't even think about this, but I
Yeah.
think you should. Because if their
Yeah.
hand is bad, like
Yep.
via the surgical, then you just let the veil resolve and just let them draw a card.
Right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It puts surgical to use. And again,
So
now that I know it's not, I'm not saving it for anything. That
right.
makes even
Well,
more sense.
the thing is, I think surgical is always a surgical weapon, and people don't play it that way. Like
Yeah.
they just use it randomly, and I always have a purpose for my surgicals when I have it in my hand or deck.
Right. Yeah, that would have been a pretty
And
sick
I
play,
think here
actually.
using it as a peak would have been much better than just trying to get them, really.
Yeah,
So
makes sense. And I think the reason I decided to force was because it's a 2-for-1 either way. And if they're veiling, hopefully they're trying to protect something
mm-hmm.
important that they didn't put on top of the
Right,
brainstorm. So,
right.
well, they
Well,
shuffled,
they
right?
shuffled off the
Actually,
brainstorm, so their hand
yeah,
hypothetically
yeah.
should be mostly good. But all right. Well, now I think you should take. Well, what do you think you should take before you make the play?
So I don't remember what I took, so I'll just try to start from
Mm-hmm.
scratch. Um, I I think that despite the fact that they have two carpet of flowers, mana seems to be a problem here. And
Mm.
the pedal, I mean, is not really like long-term mana. I don't want to take the veil because that doesn't do anything. Now that I know it's there, I can try my best to play around it. And then the wish. I mean, like they can only wish for mainly their kill cards, right? And I don't think they're in position to do that. So I think I would just take the ritual.
So I actually think I have the opposite conclusion for you. If you look at
Okay.
their deck list, you want to look at how many action cards they have. It's
Yeah.
4 Burning Wish, 4 Wishclaw, um, 4 Burning Wish, 4 Wishclaw, and Ad Nauseum, and I guess the Tendrils to a lesser degree. So I actually would take the Wish. I would take the Wish and
Okay.
just surgical with their veils because they have a veil in their hand.
Right. Oh,
And
yeah, that makes sense.
and also a ton of their deck is mana. Trying to choke them on mana, I think, is usually a losing play unless if you have a Null Rod or something like that.
Right.
Um, which you don't because this list doesn't have
Not on the
one.
list.
But I think taking the Wish then searching their veils is the best play that I can come up with because A,
Okay.
your surgical is no longer a card disadvantage, and B, the I think their limiting factor is action, not mana.
Right. I wonder what I did. Yeah, I think I took the ritual. Yeah. Actually, would you not surgical the wish afterwards?
No, because they still have Wish Claws.
I see.
Like I said, there was a period of time where if you did that versus test, they would lose, but that's no longer
Yeah.
the case. Now they would just have to find a Wish Claw and add Naws and kill you that way instead, which is doable. Um,
Yeah.
it's a little bit harder, I think, sometimes, but it's definitely doable.
I see. Okay. Well,
Did you
that's a
not
huge
surgical the
fork in the road,
veil?
obviously.
Huh.
I don't recall.
No, you didn't. And you would have to do it right then, otherwise they just cycle their veil in response, right?
Oh, okay, yes. So I
That's
think I
what
was not thinking about the surgical, or I decided I could just play around the veil. Um, can't
I
remember which
mean,
one I.
that's sort of reasonable. It's just I don't foresee the surgical doing anything this game besides taking their veils.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
One really
I
nice thing
guess.
is like once you're to this point and you surgical veil, then you know most
Yeah.
of your forces are good. Like
Mm,
it's a lot harder for them to get through it. They don't play like they have like one thought season in their sideboard that they can wish for,
yeah.
and they have defense grids. So like I think it actually gets a lot better for you if you actually do that and use the surgical as a surgical weapon.
Mm, makes sense. Well, I'm glad to know there's such a huge fork in this game because I felt pretty helpless, but actually, now that we've talked through it, I think the odds have gone up substantially if I did your play.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to know these things unless if you've played a lot versus deck, which I have over the years. Um, and but also like the deck has changed a lot over the years because there was a point where Thoughtseize Surgical was like almost game losing for them, and now it's really just not the case anymore.
Right. I mean, I think the other thing that you said that is, it sounds stupid when I say it out loud, but you said talked about future forces, and honestly, like when I looked at my hand, I'm like I'm 2 blue cards away. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I was even thinking about force,
Mm-hmm.
so which is pretty short-sighted, I guess.
Well, you know the game's going to go a little bit longer because they don't really have a kill lined up.
Right. But that was a good draw.
Yeah, you just obviously play your 2-1 here every time because
Yep.
not much else going on. So now they have tons of mana. And this is why I didn't really want you to take the Dark Ritual, right?
Right.
Wait.
Now I'm surgicling something.
Well, okay, let's unpack this. This, I think, makes the least amount of sense. If you were going to do that, you really needed to do it during their draw step because they can just
Yeah.
respond with Dark Ritual, right?
Yeah. No, I mean like after I realized I
Okay.
did this,
Yeah.
at that time I already was like, oh, that was stupid.
Okay, got it. Got it. Oh, and now you're very close to dead. Actually, you might literally be dead.
Yeah, I think he just killed me. Yeah.
Uh, two, three. So they've. Oh, they have tons of mana. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're
Yeah,
dead.
man is not a yeah. I think at this point I realized taking Dark Ritual was a mistake because
I
I
mean,
forgot I double their mana every time I play a
sure.
land.
I don't think really it matters what you do by this point. I don't think that surgical is good, like you saw.
Yeah,
Wait,
I think it was enough to kill me. Are we looking at the math?
no.
Oh no, he's gonna. Yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot. He's
you
gonna
wish
gut
for
shot
grape
me.
shot.
Grape shot. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there was probably something else you could have done instead. I'm not sure. Maybe too many game actions were taken.
You mean for me or for him?
No, for them.
For
For
her? For
them.
them? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at least we identified a few things you could have done better. I'm not sure you still would have won or lost based on that, but you could have improved your chances, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Oops.
I definitely think circling the veil once you know they have a veil in their hand from Thoughtseize is definitely correct. So let's look at game three
Yeah.
real quick versus Amma Nico.
Oops. Oh, that was too
Oh,
fast. But
this hand's great though. Obviously,
yeah.
this hand's actually the nuts. Like,
Yep.
if you could pick a hand versus them, this would look like it would look like this.
Yep.
I think technically you should have fetched Volk here because you have the Pyromancer already.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think my reasoning was if I drew a Thoughtseize, I want to use it immediately.
yeah, that's reasonable, but I think it's better to base on what you literally have in hand
Right.
instead. And I think the
Yeah.
Pyromancer is sufficiently good to care about that you do want to do that.
Okay. I see. Makes sense.
All right, so what are you thinking about this?
Well, like it wrecked me pretty hard last game. I'm not sure in general if it's worth forcing. Like, I don't remember what I did right this moment. I would say I would not. I would just let it go because I think I have enough to interact with their payoff spells.
That's my inclination as well. And like I said, I think their deck is actually mostly mana if you look at deck lists. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's weird to say this because there's like 13 lands, but if you actually analyze it, it's like a 30 plus mana source deck. So trying to choke them
Right.
on mana doesn't really work all that often.
Right. So I don't know what my past self did. Okay, I let it go.
Yeah, I think that's great. Like, They ran the bluff. So, like, they saw how you surgicaled in response to the second one, so that's why they might have just, like, tried to bluff you right there. You know?
I see. Yeah, I think I took out the surgical for this game. Let me just.
Yep, you did.
Yeah.
You still have these bolts in your deck, which I'm not thrilled about, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, nobody was there to tell me to take them out.
Oh, true. Volk is pretty good if you're not going to flip your Delver, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this turns incredibly scripted because there's really only one right play.
Yep.
Two red. Right. So what
I
do you
may have
think?
gone after this.
So I think you have to because I think they're
Yeah.
so likely they'll get grape shot and try to wipe your board.
Yeah. Yeah, I just felt like it doesn't matter what they got.
Mm-hmm.
I would have trouble dealing with like why risk, on the stack rather than just get rid of this. But I don't know what it did.
Whoa.
I did not go after it.
I think they
I
should have
would
just
have
gotten grape
in the
shot and
future.
killed both of your creatures.
Mm,
That removes
yeah,
all pressure from you. And like that's not something you can force, really.
yeah. Wow, yeah. They made a mistake there. I made a mistake letting it go, and then they gave it back to me by getting a thought
Yeah, I
seize.
think unless if they sided in the grape shot because they were scared of like surgical, but you would have to surgical at them so many times to cut them off all of their win cons.
Right.
Weird.
So we traded mistakes. I think that's okay. Puts the game even.
Yeah.
So then in printing a brainstorm, I was not sure what to think about that.
I
Seems
think they're
like
trying to kill you this turn with the Thoughtseize to clear the path, is my guess.
right. Yeah.
Oh, they wanted to play this around days, I guess.
Mm, makes sense. So this I did go after, I think.
That's interesting. I probably wouldn't because it
Yeah.
feels like they have a veil.
Okay.
And like, what's your plan for this veil then?
Yeah.
And also, they have a Thoughtseize, so now they can definitely clear the way. Well, wait, you push a force? I think you should push a brainstorm as well.
So I think my reasoning here, and I think I also forgot that they already used a carpet, which is my bad.
Mm-hmm.
But my reasoning was like if I kept a force, then they thought seize the force. But if I keep two brainstorms, then the thought seize is less valuable. Was my thought process why I pitched force.
Yeah, I guess if you forgot to use carpet, that's reasonable. But
Yeah,
I
but
think even barring that, I still would do the other play.
okay, just pitch a brainstorm.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they had Veil here, I think I'm just like
Yeah,
blown out to
because
the
now
max.
you've taken away the ability to force the veil as well. That
Right.
like it's really bad.
Yep. Yes, upon re-examination is maybe the
Yeah.
worst possible play.
Yeah.
But I got away with it.
You did. You'll just know
No
it for next
veils.
time.
Yep. Oh, I think I do. Okay.
Okay, so
What do
this
you
is
think?
interesting. I think this is like let's compute the clock. So if you do
Yeah.
this, is a 3-turn clock, which is the primary reason to do it. If
Yep.
you don't do this, it'll take you 5 turns to kill them, and you don't have that many forces left in your deck. So I think this is
Hmm.
actually okay to do for those reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I literally did like a 3 times 6.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I did it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's okay to do this.
hope I didn't do anything stupid from this point on. Okay, no, I'll put the red card on top.
Yeah.
There was a time, I can't remember if it was the first, second league, but I was trying to flip my Delver and I put the cards on in reverse order.
Yeah,
It didn't work.
it takes a little bit of getting used to because the first card you click will go on the bottom of the
Right,
stack
yeah.
essentially, which is
Yeah.
fine. I mean, it you can very easily do that on paper if you've never played it as well. Like you just have to be careful.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't played a single brainstorm in paper yet, so this could definitely happen to me.
Yep.
So I think I don't play the Delver here because I'm hoping to brainstorm into a force if I need to. And I don't need the, like we discussed, the clock is already 3 turns.
7. So if you play the Delver, and it flipped, it would be 10, and if you brainstormed, that would be 11. So yeah, it doesn't really improve anything. So I think that is correct.
So I think at this point I was just like stuck here looking at him make game actions until, there's one spell that I would try to counter, hoping the top of my deck had a counter spell.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the ritual because he's got so much mana.
It's probably this one. Well, you can't fluster it, but fluster's a really good draw anyways.
Yep. Just need to get lucky, I think, from this point on.
Agreed. All right. Well, now you know your fluster is good for this ad nause.
Yeah.
This is the fastest ad nause, obviously.
Yep, exactly. And that was it. And then after this, it's all downhill.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is a more straightforward matchup. Frankly, like when you play Delver versus combo, is like pretty clear. I think what's supposed to happen 99% of the time, right? I mean, obviously there are details of what you should counter, whether you should side in search core, whatever. But I think strategically speaking, it's not that difficult to figure out what your strategy should look like. Whereas I think playing against another fair deck, it might be more complicated, right?
Right. Exactly.
So let's go to the next match.
So the next match, pretty stupid. It's Hogaak, and I wanted to get your thoughts on game 1 specifically because I really felt completely helpless, and I'm not sure if I did anything wrong here. Game 2, I basically tried to surgical the Hogaak and left the one in the graveyard, and then they just smoked it, so it ended on the spot. But
sure. I mean,
I actually felt like I was in a pretty good spot until that point, though, in game 2.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think Hogaak is a great matchup in game 1. Sometimes you can beat them with Wasteland because their mana base is bad. Sometimes you occasionally eke out just enough damage with Delver flipped and bolt them a few times. I think those are the primary ways you win game 1. Or you like, they mulligan, you force an enabler, and they don't do much. I think those are the primary paths to victory. Like, this is a hand I would keep, but this is also a hand that's like really not very good for Hogaak, obviously. So...
Yeah. It was a pretty easy keep for me because I didn't know what I was against. And then as soon as they played the Stitcher, I was like, oh, I'm probably dead. Was the feeling I had. Maybe I should not have given up so quickly.
Well, that's all things considering, that's like a reasonable mill for you, not for them, obviously.
Yeah, they hit absolutely.
So Badlands actually tells you almost everything you need to know, I think.
Yep.
It means they're Jund or 4-color. It means they're not bug.
Yeah. Means, well, it's just not, like, it means faithless looting, right? That's basically why they're splashing, obviously.
I actually think there's merit to thought seizing them there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I think there's a few ways this could play out. I I think thoughts using to take their second enabler is a lot better than trying to ponder for a force because you literally have the interaction spell lined up already in your hand.
Yeah, I see. That makes sense. Well,
Actually, Trinium's pretty good for some, but it's going to be a little bit slow this game, I think, as well.
yeah. You mean just because of the draw, right?
Yeah, that, and you don't really have any interaction lined up, so I think it's a force shuffle.
Yeah. Let me see what I did.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
shuffled.
shuffle.
I don't like no reasonable person would ever keep that in this matchup because I think it's just it's like losing. I think.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're playing around days.
Mm-hmm.
Is what it feels like. I think it sort of feels like they have an Altar of Dementia, or like a Bloodcast, or a Vendvine.
Mm-hmm.
Although I guess they don't really care if Bloodcast gets dazed, so I don't know. Well, now you can take that Altar. It's like the other cards do things in their graveyard, so you can't take those. Uh,
Yeah, after
yeah,
I saw that hand, I was like, well,
yeah, you have a
I
shot
don't
now.
know.
Like their hand's not very good. I haven't seen Anger in a while. I love Anger.
Yeah.
It's really powerful with Altar of Dementia because it lets you kill a sneak and show player. That's really the only reason to play it, I think.
Oh, I see.
Because you can't mill out a sneak and show player because they have Emrakul, but you can
Right.
definitely attack them with like 20 zombies.
Right. So you thought you had a shot at this point? I kind of felt the
I
opposite.
think you
I don't know.
do. Yeah,
Okay.
no. I mean, obviously it depends on what happens in the next turn cycle or two, but like
Well,
if you draw like even remotely poorly, I think you're fine.
so what's the game plan from this point on for you?
Uh Flip
So I don't think I
like
had one.
okay, my game plan by this point when I see that hand is to probably next turn upkeep flip my Delver because the other time you try to turbo flip Delver is specifically this matchup because I think the
Mm,
damage matters so much.
yeah.
So I would try to brainstorm upkeep, flip your Delver, which you definitely can, and you have another cantrip lined up, and like
Hmm.
play Gurmag Angler as a blocker, try to get more damage in. Like
Yep.
evasive creatures plus bolts are your best cards, and maybe like a second wasteland would also be good. So
I see.
I'm trying to kill them quickly and slash horde just kill all of their lands. Like some combination of those. Depends on what your brainstorm shows you, will give you the
Right.
overall plan, but that would be my game plan. Obviously if they top deck something good, like you're probably gonna lose. And like
Right.
frankly, it's actually really good for you that they didn't play that Altar of Dementia.
Yeah, because I couldn't answer it. So they
Yeah, I
didn't
mean
know that,
they
obviously.
don't know that. They think maybe you have days and maybe they think they can wait a turn, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a really good draw for them because now
Yeah,
they can
because
Hogaak, which is much different. So and now, obviously, I think you're like kind of in trouble.
yeah. But I think the thing is, I unlike you, I didn't feel like I had a chance when I saw that hand either. But now that you've explained it, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, they had a 1-1 and a 2-1. I think your deck can very easily beat that stuff. Now,
Yeah.
like with that top deck Supplier, they're going to have an 8-8 Trampler, which you can't really beat, and another Gravecaller to recast. I think
Right.
that now you're mostly dead, and that's
Yeah.
fine. Like I obviously they drew a good card, and then you're dead, so I wouldn't
Yeah,
worry about it.
I felt like I lost when I saw the Hogaak, but
Yes,
I
you're.
didn't realize
I
that
mean, your
I
deck can't kill it,
yeah,
so
yeah. I mean, I now I realize I lost the second supplier actually.
it wasn't this past showcase, but I think two showcases ago, I like 2-0'd some Hogaak player on a board that looked like this. But that's because of how messed up Oko Thief of Crowns is.
Oh, you just Oko the Hogaak?
I Oko the Hogaak had a few creatures, then just started pumping out 3/3s and gaining life, and they lost like 5 turns later. It took a while actually, but and yeah, I think it's fine to concede here because you can't beat the Hogaak and it's just gonna two shot you.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I think I just
they still have a bunch of creatures to attack with as well. It's just like
yeah.
all sorts of bad.
I think I
So
conceded like very shortly after. So
no, you conceded right there, which is fine.
oh, I did.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
All right, so let's just take a
Um,
look at how you sideboarded real quick before anything. One error you made that I can immediately see. Plague Engineer is quite
yeah.
good versus them.
Oh, okay.
You should
Oh, because
name
of all the
Zombie.
zombies.
You should actually name
Yeah, right,
Zombie. Yeah.
right. Oh, wow. Of course, yeah. That makes so much sense.
And I think I would take out the fourth Fawn or fourth Thoughtseize and
Yeah,
probably I don't love a Braid versus them. It's like okay,
yeah,
but I'd probably only have like one a Braid because like here's the thing. Let me just do a quick spiel. I think
yep.
their deck can beat you without resolving Altar of Dementia quite easily.
Agreed. Yeah,
So I don't think you should really focus on that. Like obviously, like there are games you'll lose to Altar, but I think generally you lose to them just recurring creatures more than anything else.
right. Yep.
And the other reason Plague Engineer is good is if you get both on Zombie, you don't have to worry about Bridge from Below. Like it's literally not an issue anymore.
Mm.
And even one, I think, is like often enough to stabilize even when they have Bridge.
Right. Yeah, because yeah, one's much worse than two twos for sure.
Yep. Right. Yeah. I mean, this is like as
Yeah.
almost as good as it gets. It would only be
Yep.
slightly better if that brainstorm was like if you had one less land and a Delver. I think your hand would be better,
Yeah.
obviously. But
Yep.
this is good. Just one note: there's a very small amount of merit to keeping the second wasteland because you saw how bad their mana base is. But I think generally, I probably wouldn't as well. In that
Mm.
specific, if your hand was slightly better, I would consider it. But
Yeah. Like if I had a Delver, probably I would try my best to
yep.
slow the game down for them. Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I don't know what land that is without looking at it. I'm not gonna lie. I've never seen that land actually.
Expedition. Oh,
No,
this new
that's
swamp.
swamp. I don't know what it's from. That's kind of
It's a secret layer. The
oh
new secret layer swamp.
okay. Barely
Really
registers
cool.
as a swamp for me. I'm not gonna lie. All right, yeah. Obviously, you're not forcing that.
So I thought I had a pretty good, like the best possible shot because I played turn one Grave Crawler.
And that Pyromancer is actually a pretty good follow up. You should play Wasteland Pyromancer, I think.
Hmm. I
Shuffle effect
see.
for your brainstorm.
Yeah, I must have wanted to sandbag it for some reason. Like, but they already fetched the basics, so
Yeah, I
maybe that
wouldn't
makes
bother.
no
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
I think sometimes for me, it's really hard to figure out like if I should be thinking about disrupting them or I should be thinking about maximizing my own card value.
Well, I think specifically here, it's like a free roll to play the Wasteland because you save your fetch for the next turn.
Right.
It's not completely free because there are scenarios where you'll want to play 3 blue spells in one turn, but I think here, given where your hand looks like, it's better to save that fetch for the brainstorm.
Got it.
Interesting. So I left it in. Um, so I guess the question is, how likely is that to kill you? I think the answer is relatively likely, actually.
I think I forced it because they didn't seem like they had any good enablers, and
Yeah,
I didn't want them to just, I don't
right.
know, even those two cards might matter, right?
Yeah. And I agree with pitching Brainstorm because now that your fetch is gone, like the Brainstorm's worse than the Bonder, I think.
Right.
And now you have a pretty good turn lined up, which is probably likely Ponder off Volk,
Hmm.
and then probably Waste them. But obviously depends on what you draw. All right, well, now almost certainly. So
So I think I shuffled this.
agreed. A lot of people would keep this because they see the brainstorm, but then they don't realize they're going to brainstorm into a bunch of bricks. So
Yeah,
I
I don't have
don't.
a shuffle effect, right?
Right.
And then that
Yeah, but I
was
just
funny.
waste them and hope it's good enough, obviously, because that's
Yeah.
what your hand does.
It's funny because I like, I scried one to the bottom with preordain. Obviously I shuffled and then drew another one.
Yeah.
They were very prescient fetching that swamp.
No, it's mostly free for them to fetch for swamp. It's less free to. The thing is, I think they might only have one swamp in their deck, like
Yeah.
period.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Whoa, they have a really unusual. I do not see a lot of Cedar Wayfinders in Legacy. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen, like, I watched your video with Dom and I don't think I saw one that entire video.
We discussed him playing it or other people playing it before. We came to the conclusion it's mostly bad, but it's not like completely bad. It's just mostly bad.
Yeah. So here they flipped the bridge, and I was thinking about surgicaling it, but then I was thinking I don't really have an answer to Hogaak, so I was going to save my surgical for that. I'm not sure what you would have done here.
Well, there's a few things going on here. First off, I don't think there's any reason to surgical it right away.
Right.
Obviously, you save 2 life, but I think what's more likely to happen is you can force some trade, then surgical at the bridges,
Yeah.
or like just let your creature dying trigger the bridge. Um,
Yep.
I would not surgical it personally. I think it's easier for you to interact with that axis. However, the flip
Yep.
side is if they have Hogak in their hand, they can just cast it,
Yeah.
which is like kind of a bummer. But there's not much you can do about that either. So I would just
Right. I
not
can't stop
fire.
that.
I would not fire the surgical.
Yeah. I think my plan was to like try to chump with one of the elementals, but if
Mm-hmm.
I recall correctly, my opponent just never gave me a chance to let one of my creatures die, which obviously is
Yeah, that's
fundamental to their deck.
yep. I think personally, I would just attack for 2. Like I think actually engaging in a damage race is good for you.
I see.
So I don't know. Like it's possible you only attack for 1, and that might be fine. But I think I would probably attack with 2 personally because
Okay. Well, like with the pyro as well, you mean, or
no no
both
no no
elementals?
just both of the tokens.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the consideration was like, I'm not sure if I want to trade my pyro for the bridge, but
Not
yeah,
yet because I think it's way too easy for you to just draw 1 cantrips and be off to the races.
right. Yeah, I think I was valuing the pyro. That's why I held back the token to chump, or not chump, a trade. So you're saying you would have just always attacked with all your elementals in this case?
Uh, I would think about it at least.
Hmm.
And I think it probably is correct because, like I said, I think a lot of these games come down to eking in as much damage and just firing off a flurry of bolts. That's like an
Right.
easy way to like get a free win when it's like kind of undeserved.
Right. I see.
Basically, here's what I'm thinking about most of the time. In an elongated timeline, who is favored in this matchup? And I don't think it's you. I think it's them.
Right. Yep.
So I that's why I think you have to push damage wherever you can.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Obviously
because
not to the
that's
point of like getting yourself killed or whatever, like that doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
But I think here you can get a few more points. And remember, every 3 points you do, that's one less bolt you need to get lucky
Right.
with.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. I think I also just felt very overwhelmed in the matchup itself, and this
Sure.
game I definitely don't think I played very well.
It's kind of funny. I played a bunch with the modern Hogaak deck right when it came out, and a bunch with the Legacy Hogaak deck. So that deck is not really like new or novel to me.
Right.
I don't know if the same is true for you. I guess if you only started playing modern this past year as well, you
No,
do
I
not
never
have
played
that
against any Hogaak.
in modern any of the versions, or in Legacy, I guess any of the versions either.
Nope. Nope. I mean, I watched a lot of videos. It seems very hard to beat for Delver, so I think I was just
Yeah, I think it might be overstated how bad the match. Like it's certainly bad, but I don't think it's like 30-70 bad. I think it's probably more in the
mm,
40% range if I had to guess. But that's also like
I see.
kind of it's very build dependent and pilot dependent, I think, as well.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Like I think I was feeling in a okay position, but then just drawing a couple lands in a row made it much worse.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, now that they have their altar, I'm like super dead to Hogaak. So
Mm-hmm. By the way, if they
yeah,
blocked
you're
right there and put the bridge trigger on the stack, I think I would just let it go and have have that bridge be exiled and just contend with the
yeah,
2-2. I think it's fine. In which case your
yeah. It's too
attacks do
late now.
stop, but like it, you know, they didn't even take the trade anyways. They decided against it.
Yeah. No, I think I it's too late now for me, right? Because I didn't surgical it earlier, so I might as well not surgical it now, I guess.
Well, no,
Was
Bridge from Bull has an intervening if. It has to be in the graveyard when the trigger resolves.
hmm.
So even if there's a bunch of bridge triggers on the stack, you can always surgical the bridge and they won't get any tokens.
Oh no, what I meant was like, because I didn't surgical it earlier, that means I'm saving it for something else. And now if they
No,
offer
I
the
mean
trade, it's
like
the
you
situation
still.
I was
It's not even that. You still have the option to surgical it.
yeah.
So I think it's fine.
Like you would you have gone for it if they made the trade? Probably not, right?
No, because it gets exiled from the elemental dying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the trade I was hoping to
Yeah.
happen, and he just didn't let it happen.
Yep. Hmm. So Cabal Therapy, Supplier, Bridge.
Yep. Pretty sure they took the
So
Hogaak here.
here, hmm, I think there was actually a very small merit to going after the bridge right there, but it's okay. I think
Mm.
not to again.
Mm. Yeah. Here I just kind of felt like super priced into saving for the surgical because they're going to be milling so many cards.
Sure.
And if I
Okay.
saved it for Hogaak the whole time,
Yeah,
that's
I
what I
think
was
that
thinking.
that's reasonable. And yeah, here's where you should surgical Hogaak with this ability on the stack.
Yeah, I think I
I
did
think you
that.
do, and you just
Yeah, I just messed it up and the game was over. So,
you should tap your Underground Sea as well, for what it's worth.
oh, okay.
I mean, like
Oh,
your
yeah, of
hand.
course.
Yep,
Yeah, I have
just small
nothing. Yeah.
things, but just a quick reminder.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I don't think we need to
Okay,
watch
so
remakes.
yeah. So you just forgot to click on the one in the graveyard, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, this is a thing that you just have to like do, or even at a GP, you have to say like get that one too. Just say something.
Yeah, for sure. For
And
sure. I mean, in paper, I always take what I'm surgically first. And
yep,
then I, for some reason, just didn't clock it in. So, anyway.
yeah, you're still learning the interface, I think, so that's okay.
Do you? So, my feeling after I quit the game was like, I'm actually in a pretty good position if I manage to do this correctly, but I'm not sure if you feel the same way.
No, I think you're fine, and I think it's
Yeah.
actually unusual that they sided out one bridge from below. I don't think I would do that if I were them.
Right. Cool. Okay.
Yep.
So at least my judgment of the state of the game was somewhat accurate, I think.
Yeah, like in that particular board spot, if you just drew a cantrip, I think you were totally fine, and you have a
Right.
bunch of those in your deck. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
let,
exactly.
let's go to the next match real quick.
This was D&T.
Okay, so I think D&T is like fairly convoluted, especially depending. If you've never played the matchup, it also gets very. I think it's open in a different window.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Uh,
Okay.
I've actually played against this person recently, and they let me beat them in a game I should have had no shot in, I think. But it's because I'm playing elves versus D&T, and they also like mismanaged their GT slightly. So,
I
great
see.
hand. This hand's actually a hand I think that's pretty good versus D&T. Now, if you don't know you're against D&T, you should just play Delver on turn one every time.
Right.
And I think a lot of the time, even versus D&T, I would still just play Delver on turn one and hope they don't wasteland me.
Right. Otherwise, what would you do if you knew it was it was game two? What would
If
you
I knew it
do?
was D&T and I knew my opponent was a crazy person, I would cast Ponder on one. It
Got
has
it.
to.
So
You have to know both things
I see.
because a lot of people will just never wasteland, even though sometimes they should.
I see. Yeah.
But I think this is correct versus the majority of players.
Right. Oh, any consideration to countering
No,
that?
I
Okay.
okay. So a lot of hands with Delver I would. This one I wouldn't because my plan is to just cast True Name and flip my Delver and just not care about Mother Runes.
Hmm. So if you
There,
had a bolt, you would counter it. Is that what you mean?
uh, is especially if I have a bolt, I'm not countering it.
Oh, you're not countering. Oh,
Uh,
I see.
no,
Okay.
my plan in this game is to just play only evasive threats, so that doesn't matter.
Right. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, so the turn's actually a decent draw, and I think my
Yeah.
plan would be to just cast Brainstorm, play the
Hmm.
Tarn, and probably play Ponder afterwards, but it depends what you brainstorm into, obviously.
I see. Yeah, this is obviously a screw up. So
Well, it's not a complete screw up because what like there's actually a small amount of tension between fetch lands and ponder for flipping your delver
Mhm.
purposes. But I think if
Yeah.
you're going to ponder, you should tap the C now because now if you draw a bolt, you bolt the mother runes.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
I think I
And
put this back.
I'm inclined to
Like I
shuffle
think I
that
should.
one. I think you should shuffle, yeah. And I would just attack 100% of the time here.
I think I was trying to attack actually, but I just
Oh, okay. Yeah,
skipped.
I think that turn you're supposed to brainstorm into ponder and just like clean up your
Mm,
hand as much as possible, and then slam
I
true name
see.
next turn.
So the spells I don't want are force and sorry, because I have force and waste, I should try to get rid of both of those, right? That's why I would brainstorm.
Maybe it really depends on what you had brainstormed into.
I see.
We'll never know.
We'll never know exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's great. Like to know that the forks
yeah.
in these games happen really early on, because I think later on it kind of played itself,
Hmm.
but it would have turned out very differently, obviously, if I did things differently. What do
So,
you should I have brainstorm here?
I mean, I don't love it, but it's also like sort of defensible.
Hmm.
This is like it. This is probably wrong, but it's not like 100% wrong.
Right. I think the reason I did it was no, I don't know why I did it actually. I should have waited for
Yeah,
the
if you don't have
shuffle.
a reason, then you probably shouldn't cast it. But
Yeah.
in my mind, the reason to do this is to flip your Delver next turn.
Mm, okay.
All things considering, that brainstorm worked out well. Uh, I think now probably I would put back, or what do you think you should put back? I guess.
So I don't think I think it depends if I think I want to draw the Thoughtseize. Obviously, I should put like I think one of the forces on top to flip the Delver. Um, I guess the decision would be like, do I want to fetch before I drew the second card? But um, or maybe the opposite. Like I think okay, so I think it depends on which one these I value more, right? Because I could shuffle the other one away.
Right.
And I think because it's kind of like an attrition matchup, I would be inclined to shuffle away the force.
Well, I, I guess I'll put it a different way. What do you think Grimmack
Yeah.
Angler is going to accomplish this game?
Um. Oh, I see. Yeah, not too
And
much
I
because of the
actually think
mother.
Grimmack Angler is pretty awful in this matchup overall. Like, just
Mm.
generally, I actually try to cut all of them in this matchup if at all possible. Because
Oh
it's
wow.
like,
Okay.
it's bad versus Rest in Peace, and it's just like, versus an active Mother Runes, it's quite bad. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Got
like,
it.
in your discussion of putting Force back, I think what I would actually do is put back Angler and Thoughtseize, reveal Thoughtseize to Delver. And the reason to do that is now you have Force to pitch to Force if they play something threatening this turn.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, because you want to keep the true name around.
Exactly. I
Yes,
don't want
that
to
makes
pitch True Name
sense.
to Force because I think True Name is like your best card versus them, you know?
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes way more sense. Wait, what did I put? Oh, put back the. Oh, I think this is a huge mistake. I just couldn't flip the Delver. Uh,
Yep.
I don't know
Yeah.
why I did what I did. Actually, it's like
Yeah,
basically
no, it,
indefensible.
I think you recognize it's a mistake, so that's the most important part, but I think what you did is probably the worst possible play.
Yeah. Yep. I think I literally forgot about Delver flipping, which means that I
Yeah.
played the brainstorm without thinking about the Delver, which means it was just the wrong play.
Yep. It's actually especially bad because you shuffle to like if you want to play Thoughtseize or Angler this turn, you have to shuffle away your third land. And I think that is
Yeah.
game losing.
Right.
So,
Because
like,
yeah.
what you're actually supposed to do this turn is just not crack your fetch. I think now that you're in the spot,
Yes. Yeah.
which
No,
is
okay. So I just
yeah,
compounded the mistake because I wanted to thought seize them basically. Yeah, you're right. Because I think I ended up losing all these games because of oh sorry, I just clicked through
yeah.
that.
No. Click the 4 right under their life total. All right.
Yeah.
So their hand was Skyclave. Uh. Oh yeah, this person played Brimaz versus me and did almost nothing because that card hasn't aged well. It's kind of funny. I don't think it's a particularly good card anymore. Um, I
I
think
read it for a while before I took it.
given your hand, it's actually correct to take it because you don't have a
Yep.
clean answer. Elves just doesn't care about a card like that. That's not what the games are about, obviously.
Right.
But
Right. I think I just took it because it's for toughness and I
yeah,
didn't
exactly.
think about how I would get rid of it. So
Yeah, I think if you had your third land and force and no angler, you'd actually be way
okay.
ahead this game and probably just like kind of winning, frankly.
So if I had to force third land, no ink. Yeah, I
Yeah,
see.
I think you'd just be in really good shape.
Give me 1 sec. Dog's just gonna start barking soon. All right, I'm back.
All right.
Yep.
So yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
it's great to know that I screwed this game up.
yeah, no, I mean, like obviously you haven't played a lot of Legacy, so it's like hard to think about. Whoa, you just want to get the buff point in?
I think,
I think if you think you're in bad shape, then I guess it makes sense.
yeah.
All right, good read. Well, the problem is actually the wasteland in their hand if they decide to fire. I don't think they'll actually fire it because their hand's
Yeah,
only 3 drops. So
right. Yeah, I mean I think that turn basically lost me the game, right?
yeah, I think so too. Yeah, but you know,
No, it's great
yeah.
because the rest of the game I think kind of played itself out in a way that I felt like I had no chance of winning.
Oh, they wasted
Did
you.
waste me, by the way. Yeah.
Holy moly! I guess okay. Well, you can actually read something about that from their hand. I think they do not make
Yep.
that play unless they drew another land. So you know their hand's probably those 3 in another land.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because if you think about it, like why would they do that if they didn't have another land? That's introducing more variance into the game. And you're the deck with cantrips. You can smooth your
Yep.
draws out more often than they can. So I think the
Right.
reasonable conclusion is they probably drew a land and now they're wasting you. But Not that that information is going to help you too much because like your plays are pretty obvious now, I think.
Yeah, but why would they waste me in the first place though? Because like they're not ahead. Why would they want to set me back? Because I feel like in damage terms I'm ahead, right?
Well, I think what they're thinking about is if it doesn't matter how much damage they take if it's like not if they don't go below like 12, the Flicker Wisp will trade with your Delver, or
I
the
see.
Skyclave will kill the Delver.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what they're thinking.
I got it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, all things considering, Daze is probably one of your better draws that's not a land.
Yeah. Almost like a time lock.
Yeah, Daze is really good. Like it's one of the reasons I think Delver is so good in this format and like frankly kind of awful in modern, even though some people play it occasionally. Yeah,
You mean
so
Delver in modern?
yeah.
Oh
Like
yeah, that's not
so the I think they drew Snook over Plains that last turn when they wasted you.
right. Makes sense.
Bad draw. That's like that I think that card is horrible in this matchup, obviously.
Yeah.
If you ever get
Yeah.
to trade it for a card, you should just do so because it's so
Mhm.
likely to be not good.
Yep.
I feel like you lose this game barely based on how this game's playing out.
um, really?
Yeah.
I think what may have happened is I just didn't draw another land, potentially. And then they plowed the insectile aberration at some point, I think.
Hmm.
I think I might have gone to discard at some point.
Sure, it's probably next turn when you go to discard.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, you're more likely to lose to Cavern of Souls than almost any other card from their deck right now, I think.
Right. Just counter whatever they play basically is the strategy.
Yeah.
And hope to get there with Delver. So they know about the days. I think that's why they did
Alright,
this.
so you should just force pitching, force some negation, probably.
Mm. Yep.
Yep. I mean, it's like pretty obvious because I think force of negation sucks in this matchup, like I said.
Yep. So I didn't go to discard. Yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't realize how close it was.
I think there's like there's more games that look like this than you might expect.
Yeah. Yeah, so they played nothing, and I'm just like really confused what they're doing because
I mean, they're trying to play around days because they know you have days.
right.
All right, this I think you're actually supposed to force pitching days. Yep, I think that's correct.
Oh, and and then I realized afterwards that they were just waiting for second file.
I I don't think that's it's reasonable to read that because I think they
No?
would just make that play right here anyways to play around force of negation
Mm.
because going to 4 is super unsafe. Then that means you get to die to 2 bolts. 7 means you need 3 bolts. You know.
Yeah, right.
All right, Preordain's good. Just any lands. I don't think you want to draw that force, obviously. Yep.
Yeah. Did I bottom it though? I can't remember.
You did. It says bottom top in the log.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Shit. All right.
Yep. I think at this point my plan was just like trying my best to slam True Name and hope it works out.
You did bottom
Okay,
it. You just drew another one.
got it.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously, if you drew a land there, I think you're still winning. But now it
Oops.
might be too late.
Oh no, I clicked the
No,
wrong button.
it's fine.
Oh, it's just on auto now. Can I stop it
No,
somehow? Yes.
you did. All right. Um, that sometimes breaks the replay actually, and I think that might be what's happening.
I see. I mean I think what happened is they wasted landed me not soon after this and then I just died.
Okay, we can skip this and just go to the next one.
Yeah.
We had identified the major turning point of that game, I think, which is more important. All right, just take a look at how you sideboarded real quick. So a few notes. I think Thoughtseize is worse than Force of Will, generally speaking.
Okay.
Because I think an easy way to win is to take damage to discard their mostly redundant cards. And I want to
Mm,
Force of Will like their vials and their key cards. And I think
right.
their deck really struggles to beat True Name. So if you just protect True Name, they often lose.
Yeah.
Or if you protect Plague Engineer, they often lose. But I don't want to
Oh,
leave
I
Force of
see.
Negation in. So
What
therefore,
are you
it's
naming with Oh, you want to leave Force of Negation in? Oh, you mean
no.
Force of Will.
I want to. I don't want to leave Force of Negation in. So I want to leave in all of my
Oh,
Force
okay.
of Wills.
Got it.
So I would probably just try to have very few thoughts. Maybe like two. But I also think
Yeah.
Brazen Borrower is actually decent versus them.
Mm,
It's not like
I
insane,
see.
but I think it's sometimes like you bounce a germ, get just enough tempo off of that you win, or stuff
Right.
like that. And it's also an
Right.
evasive creature, so kind of nice to just have it. With regards to what to name, I look at the board and determine what's the best creature type to name.
Oh, okay.
But
Got it.
generally, it will be human because it hits
Yeah.
Thalia plus Mother Runes. But obviously, it's sport dependent. You can sometimes
Okay.
name Elemental for Flick Wisp, and
Yeah.
sometimes there's overlapping types. Because I believe
Mm,
Skyclave Apparition is a core, and so is Stoneforge Mystic.
yeah. But they have two toughness.
Yeah,
Those
but
two, I mean.
sometimes there's scenarios where you do that so you can get like reasonable attacks, you know?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Oh yeah, like I said, actually these Grimmack Anglers are pretty bad. Thoughtseize might just be better than
Mm,
Grimmack Angler, frankly.
okay. So you would
Uh,
out like three more anglers. Like you just take out all
yeah.
the Gurmag anglers. Yeah, I see.
The problem is they don't have evasion, and also
Yeah.
sometimes people play Mirren Crusader, and that's the most embarrassing card for Angler to play against. Um,
Right.
I generally, and also sometimes people like to side and rip. Not so much anymore because you don't have Arcanist, but sometimes
Yeah.
people do.
Right.
All that being said, I think you have to keep. And again, I would just play Delver on one, like, and just.
Hmm.
We have not established your opponent's actually a crazy person yet, so. Like, honestly, the Anglers would be better as Force of Wills right now. Like,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think my game plan for the matchup was just not clear, right? Like I thought I
Yeah.
would have to get on board with bigger creatures for some reason. Obviously, like I didn't think about it clearly enough, but really it's more like it sounds like it's more like a protect the queen situation, right? Like you get
Yep.
some evasive creatures, true name, and then just stop all their stuff that's
Basically,
getting rid of your stuff.
yeah, I think your 3-drop creatures are the most important ones, with an
Right.
occasion asterisk where you can occasionally kill them with a quick Delver plus a flurry of bolts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like, if they're plowing my Delver, I generally do not. Oh man, do they do it,
I
or are
think
they just
they
playing Vile? They're just playing Vile. Okay,
okay.
all right.
So I think I waste their waste because I know that my hand has no lands.
Yep. Well, true name. So what you should actually do is cantrip first, I think.
Mm. What you say makes sense. I don't know if that's what I did.
I think you should just ponder here first.
Yeah, just in case I find another land, right?
Yeah.
But I felt like okay, I think what I thought there was like if I let them untap with Wasteland, they're definitely gonna waste my trop.
Well,
Sorry, my bulk.
yeah, but you can just ponder and see. Like, it doesn't cost you anything to cast the
Oh
ponder
yeah,
first.
you're right. I could have just wasted them after. Oh, of course. That makes sense.
What was the third card?
I think I preordained.
Oh, I see. I think you're supposed to ponder there. Okay, so
Yeah.
like, let me set up the stage right. If you see a land, if you don't see a land, you can shuffle off ponder.
Yep.
If preordained doesn't see a land in all three, you can't control the third one. So I think that's the major reason to do
I
that.
see. Just dig deeper for the
Yeah,
land, basically.
right. Okay, that's probably losing.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have any agency over that. Like, once you kept the hand, you were risking losing to these hands, which is fine. I think that just comes with the
Yeah.
territory.
I see. Okay, so this game, yeah, I felt like I was super far behind from there to this point, and I think this is the actually the game that I went to discard.
Yes, it seems like it.
Yeah.
And yeah, if the anchors were forces, I think if you force a vial, they're not really allowed to just start wasting you like this either. So there
Yeah.
is merit to that too.
Okay, that's good to know. Like the sideboarding was poor, and obviously,
Yeah.
um, in this case, the sideboarding was poor. In the first game, I messed up a huge turn,
Mm-hmm.
so it's good to know. Yeah, I mean, with this, there's just
Okay,
no way
now
I can't play.
I think you're probably dead unless you draw land, literally running lands on these turns.
Yeah,
Okay, well, that's like a glimmer of hope.
yeah. Pretty sure this was a false glimmer of hope, though. I
Right, because if
don't
you
think
don't draw
I.
another land, then it's still like losing, right? Yeah.
Yep, yep. So I guess from this point, there was not much agency in this game. It was just like draw land or die, and
Right,
I
right.
think it
No,
was the latter.
I'm okay losing these games because like that happens.
Yeah, yep.
Also, if they're really
Yeah.
smart, they should EOT port. Oh, if this is a Flicker Wisp, I think you're also dead. Actually, because they just trade off, then there's no pressure on them. Then
It's even worse. They just
okay,
straight up removed
yeah,
it, and
that card
I
really
think
made
I
their deck a
conceded
lot
shortly
better.
after.
That
Yeah, for
uh,
sure.
they were supposed to port you end step because that sort of forces you to decide risk losing it to a wasteland or not. I
Right,
think I would probably just not activate the fetch and just let them port it.
right. Yeah, I think I would have just cracked it in response actually, but
No,
I mean,
I think you shouldn't because that gives you a window
okay.
to maybe try to get another land and then cast Ponder on a different turn
Hmm,
cycle. Because
I
if you
see.
crack it, then they can definitely start porting it every turn, right?
Right, yeah, that makes sense. I think I concede not too far after. Maybe
Okay,
after I
yeah,
go to discard.
you're dead now. You're
Yep,
actually dead
yep,
now. Like
yep.
it's okay. I mean, you're probably like under. You're probably like 0.1% or something from this board state, and it involves you drawing a land right away, them floating out to win, which is hypothetically possible. It's just not that likely. So we can just
Yeah.
go to the next game, next match.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick.
Okay, sure. I'll always use the bathroom real quick.
Yep. Hey, Jarvis is back.
Yep, I'm back as well.
My dog is just here in case you're wondering what those weird noises are.
Hmm.
He's a Frenchie, so he breathes very loudly.
Fair enough. All right. So, did you have any thoughts on this hand, one way or the other?
I mean, I really didn't like the hand. I don't remember if I kept it or not, but I feel like sitting here now, I feel like I should keep it, but I don't love it.
This is basically the bare minimum of what I would keep.
Right.
You have two 1 mana spells, and you have a quick follow up. The force of negation is fairly bad, but I don't think this hand's bad enough to mulligan, especially on the play.
Okay. I think I just decided to do turn one Thoughtseize.
Definitely agree with that. I mean, if you're not turn one Thoughtseizing with this hand, then Thoughtseize shouldn't be in your deck, I think.
But I think this is like the feeling that I got. Like the turn one Thoughtseize just didn't seem to do much or do enough, so that's when I felt like it was kind of weak.
I mean, their hand's literally two. You took a brainstorm.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I would take.
Albert?
Actually, you could make a case for any of the cards. Actually,
Right.
I think I would lean towards. It's tricky. So there's a lot of ways this could play out, but I think it's fine to take brainstorm. Let's not overanalyze it.
Okay.
I could probably write like 2 pages about how each of those has merit, so I'm not going to worry about it.
Actually, I knew I didn't want to take Dark Confidant because my thinking was I'll just trade up in mana and push it if he plays. But yeah, I wasn't sure to take Delver or Brainstorm, and I just decided to take Brainstorm. I don't think I thought about it that hard.
Yeah, I think there is actually merit to taking Dark Confidant, and it's mainly if you think they're going to draw a second one, then you do want to take it because it's like the most powerful card in their hand. So that's why I think it's not actually that clear that you're not supposed to take it, in my opinion. Well, the bolt makes it a lot better. So I guess, yeah, I would just say go and see what they do. Whoa. So I would have almost certainly considered casting the push response.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It looks like you didn't even consider it.
Yeah.
But I think you should have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed. I think I might have realized at the turn after that I am now missing one of the colors of my mana.
Yeah. I think actually not doing it, I think it's going to cost you a lot.
Okay. I mean, that's good to know. Yeah, because now I think I felt stuck because I was saving this for the Dark Confidant. Now I have to use the bolt for the Dark Confidant. So I didn't feel good enough to like bolt one of these, I think, was my thought process. But rescued, nevertheless. Yep. I don't think I need to do that, but
yeah, they still have a brainstorm and a Misty that you know about, but I don't think you know anything else.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really like this. The
Hmm.
problem is doing it now means if they have a wasteland means that they get to waste it.
Right.
I think you can just wait and see what happens with the brainstorm before doing anything.
I see.
And I don't really think you care if they counter one your removal spell.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think I was trying to avoid them countering my removal spell, but maybe I want them to counter my removal spell.
well, I don't think you really want them to. It's more that I am more afraid of wasteland them than them countering your removal spell, I guess is how I would put it.
I see. I think they no shuffle that ponder.
Yep. Kind of an interesting spot, but it depends on what you draw. Do you have a bunch of options? I think.
Hmm.
All right, now I would just waste their C and play Grimag Angler, delving your graveyard
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, I think that's what I did.
Like the Soul Tide Delver decks have such a hard time killing Angler because I think they're heavy on decays and not they don't really play trophy or dismember or anything like that. And now you
Hmm.
get to daze this force, and it's such a huge blowout.
Yeah. I wonder if I lost this game. Seems pretty unlikely from this
No,
point, but who knows?
I do not really foresee you losing it based on how that turn cycle played out.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Okay. One thing is, once you see that stifle, you should just crack your fetch for red and upkeep.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's like not the most intuitive thing because what you should actually have done is put a stop
Yep.
there.
Yeah.
Like just generally speaking, when they have a delver, you should just put a stop there. Like
Got
it
it.
obviously messes with your timing rhythms, but it's because of shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I had a chance to. Yeah, exactly.
No,
Without a stop,
you
I don't have a
don't.
chance to
You
crack.
have to
Yeah.
like sort of pre-do it and think about it. But
Got it.
now you're probably gonna get stifled and it'll suck. But whatever. I think you're still ahead actually
Yeah.
because one thing about Bug, they don't have any bolts. So as long as you kill that at like some point, you'll be fine.
Right.
Actually, you might lose this one, huh? Well, actually, I don't think you will. But
I think now I realized my mistake, so I just cracked it, even though there's no point in cracking it now. But
no,
I
there
was like,
is. You should bolt the Delver end step. I think.
okay. Oh no, I meant like in response to the Goy because I was just so happy that they tapped their
Oh,
land.
sure, sure, sure. You know their last card is probably Dark Confidant, right? Wait, you didn't bolt?
Isn't it Stifle?
Oh no, it's Stifle. Yeah, you should have EOT bolted then.
Um, yeah, I don't know why I played around days when I knew the last card was Stifle.
Yeah, no, and you should attack
But
here. I think.
oh,
So okay, think about it this way.
yeah,
Because of the Delver, that's why you should attack. I think
right.
without the Delver, you shouldn't. Because you attack them, put them to 12. Delver's like
Yeah,
1.5 damage in expectation. I think the
yep,
race narrowly turns in your favor if you attack that turn.
I see. I think I did some math and I felt like I wasn't confident in winning the race, so that's why I didn't attack.
And
But
also, bolts shift the math in your favor, whereas they can never draw a bolt in their deck. So you have that going
right,
for you as well.
got it. Yeah, I think at this point my plan was to flip the Delver and then start attacking,
Sure.
but no, I think your play is much better.
Yeah. It's just 5 damage is so much damage to give up on.
Yeah,
I mean, the nice thing is they don't get to attack, and like their stifle is face up, so
Yep.
Underground Sea is like actually a reasonable draw. Like,
Yep.
sort of. You should just play it out and hold up Fawn.
I think I didn't
Yeah,
attack
you
again.
you
Wow.
definitely should play it out. I think here
Oh, I see. Well,
because
I wonder what I was thinking.
I think you just want to Fawn any cantrip. Like Fawn is so bad in this game state right
Yeah,
now. If you get to trade for anything, that's basically a win.
I see. Yeah, I definitely should have. Maybe I was holding things for brainstorm, but I definitely should have tried to unlock my fawn, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
makes
think
sense.
so.
And then back to our last conversation, I definitely should have attacked, I think, that turn.
Yep. All right. Another Delver is like kind of fine as well.
Yeah.
Think you should still play the land out, especially this turn. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. I think now you're significantly favored. You know they have Stifle and Two Unknowns, but like the Stifle is like probably not going to do very much. And if you ever hit a spell, like now I think they're almost dead on the spot if you hit a spell, and you do.
Right. Yep.
You actually hit like a
Yeah.
decent one for this
A
spot.
good one.
And
Exactly.
I think now it's clear you should just attack with it because it's 11, and then that puts them at 6.
Yeah.
You really hate this 5 damage. That's why, like it. I think before it was like kind of unintuitive, but here I think it's more straightforward, right? Because
Yeah.
just 5 plus 11 is lethal.
For sure.
Or
For sure, I should have done that. Yeah. Well, either way, they would have chumped one of the turns, I think, was what was going through my head. I think I was thinking,
yeah,
I'll just
but
attack next turn,
chumping
they'll
is
chump
great
this
for
board.
you because if you force them
Yeah.
to chump, then they can't play a second Tarmogoyf and get a double block, right?
Oh, I did not think about that. I was thinking like them chumping this turn versus next turn is the same, but actually it's definitely not the same.
No, it's not the same. You want to force
Good to
chumps
know.
ASAP, and
Mm.
now 11 makes it clear that you should attack.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, force chumps ASAP. Okay, that's just a good heuristic to have.
That's like a common heuristic in draft because if the sooner you force a chump in draft, the less
Yep.
time they have to draw a combat trick.
Makes sense.
But it's like here the difference is the less time they have to draw a second blocker, which is basically the same thing.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So I think I played it a lot more patiently than you would have recommended. It didn't cost me this game, but I think probabilistically it could have, right?
If they draw a second Tarmogoyf or a Delver or something, I think it costs you a lot, actually.
I see. Oh, I mean, just not even this particular two-turn sequence,
Sure.
but in general. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would have... Basically, I think trading damage favors you, so... In that specific scenario, so I would have traded damage.
Makes sense. 1 sec. Sorry about that. Oh,
Right.
sideboarding.
All right.
So-
Okay.
I think I was confused that I thought it was
It's definitely
That
bug
was-
Uro.
yeah, now it yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I wrote to myself.
Well, so
I thought it was
yeah. I mean, all of the bug style decks basically play Uro now, so you have to be prepared for that. But I don't want to go to something like Surgical versus some because I think the life loss matters.
right.
Instead, what I want to do in this mirror, or like it's not really a mirror. The matchup plays out very differently. Is I especially do not want to take out Force of Will. I think that's like losing.
I see.
Um, and I don't really want to take out Days either. I think it's fine to cut Thoughtseize, and I
Yeah,
don't really want Flusterstorm or Blazing Volley in my deck.
yeah. I think I misunderstood what my opponent was trying to do with their deck
Yep.
until game three, basically.
So I don't think Blazing Volley is very good unless if you know your opponent has exactly Young Pyromancer in their deck to begin with.
I see.
So I only side in Blazing Volley versus Delver decks that have Young Pyromancer, pretty much.
Right, right. And I noticed the latest version just been getting cut now. I guess maybe because Bug has been getting more popular.
Well, also I think Blazing Volley is a worse card than Plague Engineer pretty often. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, right. It was popular because people weren't playing black as much back then.
exactly, yeah.
Got it. Yeah, so this sideboarding is just wrong because I took these three forces out,
Yeah.
basically.
I mean, there is like a counterpoint that like sometimes getting your forced days is game losing, but I think you just have to take that risk versus Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, personally.
Right. Yep. I honestly didn't know there was an Uro until game two.
Yeah,
Didn't think about it.
it's sometimes helpful to just go look at deck lists on MTG Goldfish if you have spare time at some points.
Yep. Yeah, I think my way of learning the metagame is like watching streams. So didn't come up for some reason. But now obviously I know.
Yep.
Oh, I kept this hand. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I would keep, but it's going to depend a lot on what you top deck, obviously.
Right.
All right, I would cast Ponder. Because on the draw, I think like they're more inclined to just waste you with the Delver out. And yeah,
Yep.
I think you just have to do this. And I would shuffle and hope you don't get wasted. If you get wasted, good beats. All right, a land is really good there. So the other thing is you saw Stifle from a bug deck. The other reason to play Stifle is to stifle the Uro trigger, so it just sticks around.
Right. Yeah.
So you could have actually learned that they had it based on that.
Right. Yeah, I think they waste probably, maybe not. Oh, Sylvan Library.
Yeah, I agree with forcing it.
Yeah.
I also agree with pitching Delver. If you get days, so be it. Whatever.
Yep. Yeah, I just feel like I can't beat that card, and I can't beat like an onboard Dark Confidant. So.
Well, the way your hand's set up, I think you have to go long. I think there are certain scenarios where you could just ignore Sylvan Library because you have your own aggressive draw, but I don't think this is one of them.
I see. So, like, if I was on the play with a Delver or something in play, you think I could potentially ignore the Sylvan Library?
Yeah, I think so. It's like definitely possible.
Okay. So now I think I'm trying to find a threat of some sort, or
threat,
interaction. Does that help either?
Threat or interaction for the Delver, I think they're both good.
Yep.
Yeah, and Blazing Volley sucks. Yeah, I would just snap shuffle. You chose not to shuffle. I think you should just shuffle because the problem is you play Delver this turn, but you fetch, so you don't even know it's going to flip. I think you can just do better.
I see. Yeah, I think the reason not to shuffle, I think I was just going to shuffle with the land and I wanted a Delver, but yeah, not having it flip for sure is kind of a pretty painful thing.
Yeah. Basically, I think if you knew it was going to flip, it would be fine.
Right.
One last point, and this applies more for the Grixis style mirrors. I'm not sure you always want to side in Painful Truths, especially on the draw. I think on the play it's like pretty defensible, but on the draw, I think that's not what it's really about. In my mind, that card is more for like the Bant Miracles style deck, where they literally do not pressure you almost ever.
I think the reason I did it was because of Dark Confidant, and I just felt like I hadn't registered Uro honestly even at this point. But if I knew they had Uro on their deck, would that make me more or less likely to put in Painful Truths?
I don't think that affects it. I think it just is how many cheap creatures do they have below that, and I think they have enough
Mm.
that like the painful truths on the draw you might not have time to deploy it.
Got it. So if they played like a Baleful Strix version instead of a Delver version, you would put it in? Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
but that's not what our opponent was doing because they played a Delver in game one as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm just trying to confirm my
Right,
understanding what you're saying about it.
right,
It's all about how aggressive they are in turn 1 and 2, basically.
exactly. Yikes! They probably just
Yeah.
double waste you, and then you probably have to untap and play Angler.
Yeah, I think that's what happens.
Yeah, I mean Angler's really good in these scenarios for that reason.
Yeah.
Brainstorm's pretty good too.
Yep.
Wait, you just didn't play
Yeah,
your land?
I just skipped through the turn
Oh,
basically.
okay, got it, got it.
Man, that's why I didn't show you that. That's why I had to play a second league because the first league was peppered with this kind of stuff.
Sure, you'll eventually get used to it. I think if
Yeah.
you had a land last turn, you would have been. You actually probably were maybe slightly favored if the Angler resolved.
Yeah, I was feeling pretty good to be honest.
Yep.
And then after I missed the land, I felt really bad. So, but I'm not sure if I actually got into that bad of a position because they also
Well, you
didn't play
did
land.
because I think they had Stifle. They brainstormed into a wasteland.
Mm,
If you had gotten to get under it last turn, I think it would have been a lot better for you, obviously. But
yeah, makes sense.
and like they are brainstorm walked because like they chose to play wasteland out.
So I'm like 2 turns behind on my angler basically.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a huge difference actually. Wow, good to know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad because that's obviously not like a structural problem.
The blazing ball is coming to haunt you.
I know.
All right. Always time for anglers. No, don't do this. This is so bad. Like, okay, I guess I'll
Yeah,
explain
tell
why
me
it's
more.
really bad.
Yep.
The reason is I think the brainstorm actually gets better next turn because
Uh-huh.
you have the ability to play a fetch land. Now you're
Yeah.
forced to draw one of these bad cards again, really.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And I don't really think you can afford to respect Days ever. I think Days is just going to be insane versus you no matter what, so I would just not bother respecting it.
Hmm. I think that was obviously they don't even have days in their deck, it turns out, but yeah, I was about to ask that,
I
and
don't think you
makes
can
sense
say
then.
that. I think they have Days in their deck.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think they have Days. Like, I think the day playing Days with Uro thing is a bit of a meme. I think it's totally
Yeah.
fine, especially since Uro puts the land back into play.
Hmm. Makes sense. Yeah, I think I play Brainstorm specifically because of days, but
But they also just would not Days it, I think, if they had a Days here.
give me the Angler.
No, they wouldn't Days the Brainstorm.
Oh, yeah, that's why I played the Brainstorm. Because I was thinking if I played Angler, they would just daze it. But
Yeah.
yeah. Which puts me 3 turns behind on Angler.
Yeah, because like there's just so many issues with not like casting the angler that turn. I think.
Yeah.
By the way, you know they have abrupt decay from their delver. Like this is the other reason I wanted turbo because like now you're in real danger to dying to this delver before you get
Mhm.
to do anything productive.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happens actually. They just decay my yeah.
Yep.
And
That's why
then
they
my
don't have.
angler,
Yep.
yeah. Well, I'm 15 damage behind, right? So that
Exactly.
that's basically the beat.
Playing it ASAP, playing it on any of those turns would have been insanely important. I think.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. Good to know that that's what screwed it up. Yeah, now it's just way too late. I just felt like even when I was casting this, I'm like, yeah, this is there's like,
Mm-hmm. I mean, what
really
has
no
to
point.
happen is you have to draw a removal spell for Delver literally next turn, no matter what. So
Yeah. Yep. And I'm out of cantrips, so it's like not that likely actually. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just
yeah, we'll take a look. But okay,
yeah.
you have died.
Yep. And so at this point, I still don't know that there's Uro in the deck, so I don't even bring in like Now Spellbomb or anything like
Okay,
that.
one thing I want to look at is did you put Daze back in your deck? You did.
No,
You
I
did.
did. Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
I'm pretty anti actually ever cutting Daze pretty much, especially versus that
Uh-huh.
version, because they're so heavy
Yeah.
on threes. I think Daze
Yep.
is just really good. I think on the play you could make more of a case to have less Force of Wills on your deck, but
Right.
if you knew they were Uro, I don't think you really should go too low in Force of Wills, period.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. I put 2 days out on the draw, but I
Mm.
put it back in on the play. Is what
I
happened.
think I would try not to cut Dazes even on the draw if possible.
Okay.
Anyways, let's see what happens.
Oops.
Whoa, you
I just
mulligan that
skipped through
first
that.
hand?
Yeah. Let
Just
me.
close it and reopen it. I don't think you should mulligan that first hand, I think.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
I see. Actually, this is like kind of borderline. Um, I think I would probably reluctantly keep
Yeah.
and just fetch for a Volk main phase with one of your Pluto Delta probably
I see.
to play around Stifle.
Yep.
Obviously you could walk into Wasteland, but your hand has actually so many lands that if they waste you, it's not even a big deal.
I see. I think I thought that, this is kind of a dead card, but again, I think this is short-term thinking, similar to like game match 2.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously could just draw. Also because I thought Force was bad in the matchup before I talked to you, obviously. So then I thought the only one I left in is in my hand, and I don't have a blue card to pitch, so I think that kind of pushed me to mull. Yeah, but you're saying you definitely would have kept this, right?
I actually think land heavy hands make it so you can draw out easier than land light hands often.
I see.
Because with a hand like this, if you the instant you draw a brainstorm, your hand becomes like pretty good, right? Or even just like a
Okay.
ponder is fine. A preordain's like probably the worst, but still acceptable. You know.
Yep. Yep.
Well, now you're
And
not allowed to keep this, and like here's
yeah.
the other thing: like secretly, a lot of Delver mirrors do grind to grind fests,
Yeah.
especially versus the bug version. I think.
Yep.
In a Grixis version, I would say like 1/3 of the time someone gets bolted out of nowhere because like you've taken too much damage from your fetches or Delver attacks or whatever.
Yep.
All right, on 5 cards, you definitely have to keep this one though.
Yeah.
I think you should actually just. Well, let's see what you do. You bottom the days. I would have probably just bottomed the second brainstorm, but that's more debatable. I think. I
Oh,
think,
I think
but
I
I think
thought about it
bottoming.
again.
Okay, I think bottoming the first brainstorm is pretty clearly reasonable. Okay, so you actually do come to the same conclusion. That's cool.
Yeah. And I think at this point, I just didn't have a game plan because I'm on 5 and I didn't think about what I wanted before I pondered, to be honest.
I think I might have just not pondered. I was thinking about it because
Mm.
I kind of wanted to see what they were doing.
Yeah.
But also like drawing exactly one land for the rest of the game, I think is your primary way to win. So it's more
Mm.
valuable to try to dodge drawing lands later. Whereas like if you draw a
Right.
land literally right now, that's fine. But like the second or third land to draw after that is not so fine.
So I don't know why I didn't shuffle there.
I don't know why this blazing volley looks not great. Like
Yep. Yep. I think I was thinking I had to maybe Um, I don't know. I didn't have an answer to their turn one Delver is what I was thinking maybe when I didn't shuffle, but in
Well,
hindsight, it's a pretty awful
you
decision.
do if you really want to, but second, like you can still ponder looking for that thing next turn,
Yeah.
um, and choose to draw
So
it.
you think what I should have done is just held the ponder turn
Yeah,
one?
I think so. Yeah, because
Yeah. Okay.
the real reason not to hold it is if you're looking for a land, then you definitely should cast it. But you already had a
Yeah.
second land lined up, so I don't
Yeah.
know. Like I think there you could make a case for not casting it there essentially.
Yeah. Makes sense. So they did nothing, and I really regret this blazing volley. So I mean, I really should have shuffled.
Yep,
I think is the
I think so too. But so that's a weird time to fetch. I think if you actually want to fetch, you should fetch during their upkeep. So if they have stifle, they're forced to pay mana for it on their turn.
right. Yep. Yep.
All right. Here's where you're really hoping they tap out, I think, on this turn.
Yeah. Try
But
to
they
jam a
don't,
true name.
unfortunately. All right. I think you're like, I guess we'll see what you do, but I think jamming here is like kind of bad. You also think it's bad, apparently.
Yeah, it's my only threat. I don't. I felt like I couldn't afford
Well,
to not have it stick on the board.
I think it's more debatable if you draw a spell, what you're supposed to
Yeah.
do, but I think with drawing a land, it's pretty clear that you shouldn't do that.
Right.
Is this the Uro time?
Yes.
All right. I mean, like dazing this does basically nothing, so you shouldn't.
Mm.
Obviously, there's like a
Yep.
ton of issues here. Like,
Yeah, this blazing volley looks hilarious. It's like it gets worse every turn that goes by, and it's in my face. I have to look at it.
so I actually think there's a pretty good chance you were supposed to daze that Bonder because I don't think there's ever a chance you're going to get to daze this Uro. And if they find another
Right.
land, you definitely don't get to daze the Uro. So I think you should have
Hmm.
dazed the Bonder, just hard cast. Just tap both of your C's, cast daze.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like the last. Basically, it's like the last available time slot for the
Yeah.
ponder. For the days.
Now the flip side is if you draw a Force of Will, then it'll be better not to play it. But we have no way to really draw it, like besides blind drawing it
Yeah.
or drawing cantrips. So
Yep. Makes sense. Yeah, I don't think I was getting a better spot, and I think I was trying to get greedy and thinking I'll days that were on the way up, but obviously they played around days
yep.
for like several turns.
Whoa, I think you should just play a true name that turn. It's worse versus exactly Plague Engineer, but
Yeah.
this is also bad versus Plague Engineer, so you're not really
Mm.
and like True Name can actually attack through the Uro or block it, which is not
Yeah.
ideal. Whereas like I don't see what this Pyromancer is going to do.
Right, I see. Okay. I think the reason I chose it is because I wanted to accumulate value over time, but yeah, maybe I don't have the time that I think. Yep. Punish.
Well, I mean, all of
I
your
get the
creatures were
true
going
name
to
to
die
stick
to
at
that.
least.
That actually worked out slightly better for you, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, actually maybe I was feeling okay.
Did you not play True Name here?
uh I think I do.
Okay, good. You're never allowed to play Delver here, obviously. This is a
Yeah,
human.
I think actually at the end of the game, but the game was completely over. I think I did play a Delver and then realize it afterwards.
Okay.
I mean, I for many turns I was like, don't play Delver, don't play Delver, and then yeah,
I mean, the game is essentially over because the Ur is going to resolve, and you don't have a way to kill it or like do anything about it.
yep, yep. I think what ended up happening is I blocked it Uro for a couple turns, and that's pretty much.
Yeah, I mean we can fast forward to look a little bit, but I would say you're mostly dead as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I played Delver actually.
Okay,
But
sure.
yeah, I think the game is mostly over at this point. Is how I felt.
Yep.
Yeah. That was game 3 actually.
Yep. So last match you played against Sneak and Show, I guess, but you didn't know it in
Yeah.
game 1 obviously.
Yeah.
Think again, this is like a pretty straightforward matchup.
Yep.
Hand's great.
Oops.
This hand's insane versus basically every deck, and it's especially good versus Sneak and Show.
Yep.
So I mean, like,
I think I snapped keep, but I didn't
I mean,
want to
I
fast
don't think
forward.
there's much to discuss here. This is
Yep.
a snap keep in every matchup. So
Right. Right. So I think I just went Delver first.
yeah, I think that's correct. Again, like obviously there's a risk if they're like playing the mirror and they waste you right here. It would not be great, but
Right. Yeah, in general, I felt pretty good against the combo decks
mm-hmm.
and not good against the fair matchups.
Yep.
Despite my misplays.
Mm-hmm. So, one really small thing that I didn't mention, I think you should have
Yep.
actually fetched a Volk on turn 1, because it was so
Okay.
likely on this turn that you would want to ponder into casting Thoughtseize off Underground Sea.
I see.
Like this actually typically happens with Lightning Bolt, so you want to do it in the reverse order. Which,
Yeah.
if you had a bolt in your hand, uh, instead of that Thoughtseize, then like what you did was actually correct. But I think with the Thoughtseize in hand, you're supposed to reverse the lands you
Got it.
get.
Yep. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Would you ponder here or play Thoughtseize?
I would ponder here. I would ponder here looking for a land and like because you don't know its combo yet, so like developing a fair game plan actually matters. You
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
Alright, well, you should keep one of those lands, and I hope you did. Okay. And yeah, well, by this point, I actually would consider playing out the Delver as well. So, but it did. It looks like you didn't do that. I guess you're afraid of days, because
You mean play another Delver?
yeah, I would just fetch a Volk and play a Delver.
Mm.
I don't think you really care if they daze your Delver if they were playing a mirror right here, because like you would rather resolve True Name anyways, right?
Yeah, that's true. That is true, yeah. I think that would have mattered in this game particularly, actually, because the clock would be like significantly faster.
Yeah, I think it often matters. Like
Yeah.
Magic, as Richard Garfield intended, was about creatures. Having more creatures is good.
Yeah. So I think this is
It looks like a sneak attack, obviously.
sneak attack.
And I would daze the shit out of the sneak attack, obviously.
Yeah.
Holy Spirit Guide? That sucks. That's a
I
slight
think I
punish, but
yeah.
you're supposed to let that ability. No, you're supposed to let them pay first.
Yeah, I thought they already did for
No,
some reason, and then I just
you just have to look at the board.
I see.
It's a
Yeah,
moto
yeah,
thing, obviously, but
yeah.
Sucks. They just had it all. All right.
I actually feel pretty good because I thought I would just thought seize their last thread and then get there. But obviously, it would be a lot better with a second Delver in play.
Well, yeah, it would. Why did we fetch now?
No idea. Just clicking buttons, I think.
Hmm. So now we just have to hope that they have something we can thought seize and for them to top deck nothing.
Yep.
You definitely should thought seize and play Delver now, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's what I did.
All right. Well, that gets out. And now you play my least favorite part about this matchup, which is when the game looks like that and hope they top deck nothing.
Yep. I actually punted here because I had thought at this point already that I should play around Gristlebrand by leaving a Delver back to block and then
That
pushing it.
no. I don't think you should.
No, but they don't get to draw cards if they play a Gristlebrand with Sneak Attack.
Doesn't Grizzlebrain have flying?
No, not this turn.
Oh, I
Sorry,
see.
I was
Okay.
thinking ahead. Yeah.
It depends. I guess I could see where that's correct. Yeah. That's not unreasonable, actually.
Not with them at 11, but I think at some point I had them below where they could have drawn a card, and the only way they could draw was to attack me first.
Right.
And then I think I meant to hold back a Delver, and I didn't.
I see.
I should waste, right? Or it doesn't matter.
No, I don't think you should waste. I think you should just want to fawn any cantrip.
Mm-hmm.
They have 3 volcanics. Like, I don't really see what
Yeah.
wasting one of them does.
Right.
Oh, snap off the... They're hellbent! Fawn it! That's all I'm gonna say.
Yep. Yeah, here's where I think I meant to hold back a Delver.
No, but I
I think
mean,
it would
like,
have actually worked.
I really don't think you should actually, but
Yeah. Okay.
because no, like, I mean, no, I don't think you should. Yeah, I mean, like, if you just fawn that cantrip, you
Yeah.
win. So
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Actually, I don't know why I didn't fawn it. It's not like a tough Magic play. I'm not sure what
yeah,
I was.
because they have 0 cards in hand. There's a cantrip on the stack and
Yeah,
a sneak
for
attack.
sure.
Like,
And I literally have like lethal on board. I have no idea what happened there, to be honest.
okay, yeah, I mean, it's kind of
In
weird.
my mind, I won this game, so.
Well, yeah, you still have to execute, obviously. Ooh, why
Yeah,
are
for
we
sure.
doing that?
I think my rationale here was like I want to have them to have as little mana as possible after they draw 7. I think was what I was thinking.
But it doesn't really matter, right? Like, because if they
Yeah.
even get to activate once, they'll not be dead.
Yeah.
I mean, I would still just attack and put them to the test because if
Yeah.
they don't have
So
it, they
I
die.
just F this game up because I just skipped through the attack phase by accident.
Oh,
And then they played an Emrakul and killed me, so. Yep. I think I even typed in chat. But yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I said oops. But
all right. Well,
and then
we can
Emrakul
stop
and then-
watching this one and just and just consult how you sideboarded real quick.
Yep.
All right. I think Lightning Bolt sucks, and I don't think you should cut Wasteland.
Okay.
I think you should cut Fatal Push though.
Yeah, that's definitely that should have happened for sure.
I mean, we can double
I don't know
check.
why I didn't.
Obviously, let's just
Yeah, it
check.
makes no sense.
No,
I
there's
did
no
cut
Fatal
it. Oh.
Push. You just do, and there's a Fluster Storm in our sideboard that should be in our deck.
Oh, okay.
And
So,
this is actually
yep.
a matchup where I'm sympathetic to having Surgical in your deck because I think Thought Seizing their Show and Tell or Sneak Attack and Surgicling it cuts them
Yeah.
way down on outs to do their thing.
Right. Okay.
I
So,
think this is a matchup where you don't need like so many threats in your deck. Like Grimag
got it.
Angler or like some or True Name or something similar are not that necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. True Name especially seems quite slow. Yeah, it makes sense. So you would have bored out more bolts, maybe
I would
even.
just have zero bolts. I would have like
Yeah.
literally no removal spells in my deck except maybe Brazen Borrower.
Right. Okay. And then Fluster's in, maybe Surgical's in. Keep
Yeah.
the Wasteland in.
Yep.
Okay. Makes sense.
Wasteland's especially good if they choose to put something like Boseiju in their sideboard, which they sometimes do.
Yes, and yeah, I got wrecked by Beseju later on, so
Well,
oops,
this hand's
didn't
like insane.
yeah.
But yeah, if this bolt was like a real card, I think your hand would actually be unstoppable.
Imagine it was a wasteland.
Or like a surgical or like anything. Like
Yeah. Oh yeah, surgical, that would be
yeah.
broken. I think I just never felt really comfortable which role in the matchup I'm supposed to take with Grixis. Like
I
whether
mean,
it's
you're definitely the aggressor still because if the game
yeah,
goes long, they'll run you out of counters. But you do have a lot of like ways to like prison them out. I think.
yeah,
But I don't. I think lightning bolt is just a blank piece of cardboard too often that you don't want in your
yeah,
deck. Like I
yep,
said, I don't think like lava spike is actually a good card.
right. Do you think that heuristic is different if you're playing blue red
A
or it's
little
still
bit,
basically
yeah. I think it's a little bit different because you have like, well, okay, if they're gonna do shit like side in arcane artisan, then lightning bolt is a real card. But the sad part is you don't even have an answer to arcane artisan.
yeah,
So I think you're supposed
yep.
to take the artisan. Actually,
What did I take?
you took ponder. All right,
Oh,
that's kind of interesting. I guess you can kind of answer artisan even in the next turn cycle, and it'll still be okay. So that's sort of defensible, actually.
yeah, I think I was planning on bolting it maybe, but I
Well,
just
the
realized I
problem
don't.
is you can't even cantrip into a land, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so that's why it's like slightly risky. I think you.
So
Oh,
I
I
ended up
see.
countering it.
Yeah, I think if
I,
you do this, this is one way you can play it. I
I
think I
think
would
what
have.
happened is
Sorry, go ahead.
I think I just realized I should have taken this, and
Okay.
then I
Yep.
panicked and just spawned it because I had no way of dealing with it. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable. Like, if you knew your top card was a land, you probably wouldn't, obviously,
yeah,
but.
yeah, yeah. Because Ponder is not brainstorm, and I have two Thoughtseize, so
Mm-hmm.
I think there was no reason to take it. So would you play your second threat, or would you just keep Thoughtseizing?
I'm trying to remember what's in their hand now.
Oh, uh, it's just lands, I think.
Well, then probably just play your Delver.
I don't remember what I did.
I mean, they had one draw step to draw something. Oh, they're gonna have two draw steps, but like you can't thought seize the top of their deck. So I
Right.
think I would probably just play Delver here.
Nope. Past self,
Well,
not.
that's. I mean, it is nice that you got the show and tell, obviously, but
Yeah.
like to be fair, if you had played it the way I suggested, you wouldn't have had to force the artisan. They would have a
Yeah.
ponder, and then you would thought seize the show and tell, and
Yep.
then you'd probably be really safe and be able to deploy Delver on one of these turn cycles. But
Yeah.
now it's
Because I
like
could
very risky
spawn
instead.
like a foul. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I realized I put myself in this high stress situation afterwards
Mm-hmm.
by not taking the artisan.
It's also like artisan and show and tells are what they're trying to cantrip into.
Yeah.
So like,
I had a weird. What happened is I think I had a weird moment where I'm like, yeah, I could just bolt that, and then after I
oh, I
didn't take
see.
it, I was like,
I
I don't have
see.
a land.
Yep, you don't have any red sources for the lightning bolt.
Yep. So I think I knew their hand was full of lands. I didn't really want to waste their city because I mean, it's gonna die anyways if they play another land. So
Oh yeah, I definitely wouldn't waste their city, and in fact, I think they should have been playing their fetch lands and islands out.
mm. Yeah, in hindsight, this is just not good.
So interesting to note they left in omniscience. I think omniscience is like pretty awful in this matchup. Basically, the
Hmm.
heuristic I use when I played those decks versus discard decks is I never leave in omniscience because it's like a
Hmm.
3 card combo, right?
Right, right.
I would just generally assume that putting in a big creature is good enough most of the time, and it really is like most of the
Yep,
time.
yep. Yeah, but just imagine I had another Delver in play and a Force in the hand or something that
Yeah,
forced
yeah.
the show and tell.
Yep.
I mean, when you explain it, it makes a lot more sense. But I don't think I could have come to that conclusion like thinking about it
Hmm.
by myself.
And really, this lightning bolt has looked quite bad. I mean, like now that you know that they have artisans, it's actually more defensible to leave in a small number of bolts for what it's worth.
Right,
Probably like 2 is my guess.
right.
So
I mean, I
like,
had a two there for the wrong reasons, but
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
ended up with two.
sure. The game has ended. Clicking that button
Oh,
doesn't do
okay.
anything. So let's just take a
Cool.
quick look at the last one. And
Yep.
all right, I mean, this is a pretty good hand. Like, I would never wrong this hand. Let's consult the sideboard real quick again. So you actually did cut 1 lightning bolt, but you left in 1.
Yep.
I think I would still try to have these surgicals and wasteland in, probably over the anglers.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the reason to keep True Name is it's a blue card for your forces, I
Yep.
think.
Yeah, makes sense. Angler is the worst
Yeah, I mean,
slow threat.
exactly, yeah.
Cool. I hope I kept this. I'm not sure.
I mean, this hand's really good. Like, it demands very little for you to win. Like, you just
Yep.
need to draw lands, and that's, like, not really a big ask. Because,
Yep.
like, imagine if you cast all of these spells in the game, you probably easily win, is my
Yeah.
suspicion. And that's, like, a pretty good draw, too.
Yep.
Wait, why are we fetching? Oh, you want to cast
Uh,
Thoughtseize. Actually, I guess this is fine. My inclination would be to not do this on this turn cycle, actually. I would just play a fetch and Seiko and see what they do.
I have no idea why I fetched because
Wait,
I think I wanted to leave up. Yeah, maybe I started to Thoughtseize and then I thought after I clicked the fetch button that
yeah,
I
but
have two red cards still.
this is why I don't want to fetch on turn 1, really.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
This is actually specifically why I don't want to Thoughtseize on turn 1, because I don't know what I'm going to have to do. Like,
Yep.
I'm blasting this brainstorm every time, probably with Reb. Yeah.
I mean, that's why I got the vault.
Yeah,
After I
but I
realized I
mean,
shouldn't be
like,
Thoughtseizing.
sure, you're going to end up doing that, but you lost options if that didn't happen.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, there was the only reason I think I was fetching is because I wanted the Thoughtseize and I thought better of it afterwards.
Sure.
Then I was too late.
Also, I think your opponent should have just, like, possibly should have waited.
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends on what their hand looks like, obviously, but
Waited on the brainstorm like it's too
yeah,
early. Yeah.
maybe it might have been like 1 turn too early. But maybe if they have a bunch of cantrips, then it's correct to do it. Obviously.
Hmm.
So this is interesting. Yeah, I probably would blast as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about Fluster mainly because it doesn't do anything to sneak attack, but I have, I guess,
Well,
other answers.
neither does Pyroblast, so
True. True.
I think you're supposed to cast Brainstorm on this turn cycle. I don't know if you do or not.
I guess.
I guess not.
No.
So the reason I think specifically this turn you should is the upside of
Yep.
hitting a black land is super 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 high, and like
Mhm.
basically have infinite permission. Like
Yeah.
obviously you lose if you don't hit, but I I mean I don't want to just like sit here forever and let them work through all of our counter magic eventually.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Maybe I was just like sitting behind my wall of counters, trying not to brainstorm. But you're right. Like, if I thought season this turn, the game's probably over.
Especially if you imagine if you brainstorm into two fetches, it's just like so broken. Like because then you thought
Yeah.
then you get a clock going and then like everything's looking pretty good all of a sudden.
Yep.
So you were
What did
thinking
I
about
use?
Spirit Guide.
By font.
Kind of
Yeah.
hate that actually. I think you should just float a blue in days and
Mm,
see what they do.
I see. Yeah. I guess Spirit Guide is also just a card, right?
Yeah,
So
it's just a card. Like why? Like we don't know that they have Spirit Guide for sure.
yeah.
And if they do,
Yep.
like who cares? Like then we force it doing the same thing. But now like we don't really have a way. We don't have a win con lined up. Even if we do, like now the danger is if they just draw a bunch of bombs in a row, then we will lose because we have no clock.
I think that's exactly what happened. And yeah, I think this is just me being short sighted again. Like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have the lands in hand to play it, so I felt like I should just get rid of it. But yeah, that's I forgot this brainstorm could do a lot of work, obviously.
That's also why I think you should have brainstorm on that turn cycle. Then you know,
Yeah.
and now you should just brainstorm again. I think. Like,
Hmm.
all right. Well, I mean, this is probably has more to do with why you lost than anything else. Uh,
Hmm.
you should probably put back. Probably, definitely not that fluster storm. I think personally, I would put back.
What did I put back?
You put
I put
back
back both
brainstorm
forms.
and fluster, or
I
no,
see.
you put back fluster and
Plus, I put both flusters back.
you definitely shouldn't do that. Like I think fluster is one of your better cards still. Like
Mm,
I think you're supposed to put back Thoughtseize and fluster actually, and just ponder next
okay.
turn shuffling.
Right. Okay. Got it. I think that my thought process was I couldn't cast Fluster this turn, but anyways, and I was gonna draw another one next turn. But yeah, the thought is also exactly the same outcome, anyways.
Right.
I may have been stuck like overvaluing this thought from the beginning and just didn't consider putting it back.
Well, now the real issue is you don't actually have enough blue cards to double. Oh no, I guess you do, but you would have to use a cantrip to pitch the force. Suppose you had to double force plus Daze's turn, all of your
Yep.
cantrips would be gone. You'd be left with a Thoughtseize. But I think you would much rather have a Ponder in your hand than a Thoughtseize.
Yeah. Exactly. For sure.
Oh
Yeah,
shit.
and then,
Okay,
yep,
yeah. I mean, now you know what you need to get, but you've sided one of them out, so it's like even less
yep,
likely.
yep, exactly. So I shuffled. There's no lands. I just shuffled. And then I drew the lone bolt.
Hmm. I actually also just generally believe that Wasteland's really good versus them, regardless. Like,
Right.
which is why I don't cut it in this matchup.
Yep.
I would brainstorm 100%.
Yeah. Okay. I think I
Yeah,
thought
I
I
think
needed a
this is
clock.
the wrong scenario to play this card.
Hmm.
First off, you need a land. Second off, like your plan is not good enough to win. Is the real issue, I think.
Okay. Because now these don't do anything.
Yeah,
Hmm. So I need to basically dig as quickly as I could to get a wasteland,
get a
unlock the rest of my
wasteland
hand.
or like be able to thought seize them, or something.
Yeah.
Like I don't think this is way too likely to lose.
Yep.
Oh, they force this?
Yeah.
I guess if they know it's uncounterable, it's worth doing. But like, it costs them 2 life. It's not exactly free.
Yep. Well, this is the 1-3 bracket, Jarvis. So,
You don't know that they're 1-3 actually.
oh, okay, really?
Yeah, it's
Didn't
not
know that.
guaranteed. Like, it's likely that they're 1-3, but it's not. Sometimes it pairs because there's no one else in the queue.
Got it.
I think we're likely to see another hardcast force.
Yep.
All right, that's fine.
So still, I mean, every turn this brainstorm is the best thing to do, right?
I think that turn is defensible to cast Thoughtseize instead of Brainstorm.
But should I have brainstormed afterwards?
No, because you can't play a fetch land anymore.
Oh, okay.
And you also can't play a wasteland, so like you don't really get any gain out of playing brainstorm that turn.
Okay, so I want to go one card deeper
Yeah,
instead next turn.
like on this turn cycle, like that's upcoming. I think you're supposed to brainstorm off Volk.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I would definitely brainstorm now off Volk. And if they force it, so be it. Like whatever. So their hand was just a bunch of forces.
Yeah.
Wow, this is a really weird way to play this for this game to play out.
Yep. It worked out for them because I couldn't get my wasteland. And
Or a
then,
clock. Like a clock punishes
or,
this so bad, right? Like the way
yep,
this
yeah,
game played
exactly.
out.
No, but that's why they countered the Delver, maybe. Like,
Yeah, I guess so. That's true. For what it's worth, surgical on show and tell would disable their Boseiju for the most part.
mm, yeah. So they let this resolve, and I think at this point I felt like I probably lost.
Well, they might be out of force. They've used 3 forces, right? Like you
That's
can't really
true.
read anything into that.
Yeah. I just feel like I gave them too many turns not to draw wasteland.
Okay, here's where you probably lose.
Yep. Yep, and we're cool. I think that was pretty inconsequential.
No, it doesn't do anything. Like because
Yeah.
like you don't have a
I
diabolic
can't.
edict or anything in your deck, so
Exactly.
you're
Exactly.
not drawing into anything.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was unfortunate, but there were definitely things you could have done differently, and sometimes that's how it is, right?
Yep. And I did look. The wasteland was the second drawdown, which means if the brainstorm resolves like I could have, I would have gotten there.
Yeah, I mean, you lost to Buseju, but that's also why I don't advocate cutting Wasteland in this matchup ever. And it's also just like, I think a lot of the time they actually have to fetch more volcanics than you might think,
Yep.
especially if they're
Yeah.
siding in a card like Pyroclasm. So,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that was, I mean, it's good that it started way before the game even started.
right.
Because I felt like I should have been in pretty good shape this game,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, all the misplays that you identified. It's actually really good. That I don't think I would have realized that the mistake was not brainstorming that specific turn, uh, which actually would have won the game, probably most likely.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to tell, obviously, but
Yeah.
um, also fetching the first turn costs us a little bit. Like it's a
Yep.
very small amount, but you technically did thin your deck of a land that you might have wanted to draw, like sort
Right.
of. But it's like so minuscule that that stuff really doesn't matter. But
Yep.
it is technically not zero. So
Right. Yeah. For sure. Cool. I mean, that was my first less misclicky league.
right, all right. Um, so I think that should probably do it for today.
Yep.
Going to stop recording now. I'll probably post it in a day or two or whatever.